All right, we have our camera recording. We are ready to start this meeting when people...
I didn't know if anybody else wants a copy of this, but Ken had asked in the last meeting for an analysis of the school fund balance, so I just kind of quickly put something together. This is just the school fund balance, if you want to look at it. Ken had asked for analysis.
Thank you.
Did you get a copy of it? I would.
All right.
Yes. Yes, of course. Yeah. Yeah, it's my first time. Yeah. Yeah, that's
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this the April 14th, 2026 meeting of the Smithfield Budget and Financial Review Board to order. For the emergency evacuation health notification, in the event of emergency, there's an exit directly to the front left of the room. It exits straight outside. In the event that that is not accessible, exit to the rear of the room, to the left, and out the main door for the police station. For the facilities, the restrooms are out the back door of this room to the right. Down a small hallway to the right, there are two options in that hallway. Item C, vote to approve the meeting minutes of April 7th, 2026. Are there any comments or discussions related to these meeting minutes? All right. Donna, I do have one correction on them. Where it says Ian McLean noted the school department spends a lot more than we take in from the CTE programs and encouraged participation in the Northeast Consortium. I actually was recommending that we evaluate potentially separating from it for CTE purposes. With that amendment, can I get a motion to approve the minutes? Second? All in favor? Opposed? Do you want to motion to move forward?
That's okay.
No, please.
And Donna's got 1,000 things to do. It's hard to read these very quickly. But I know she's got 1,000 things to do, so if it comes out the day, we should look at those.
Okay. If you would like, we can
I looked at
interject
it
here.
really quick.
Okay.
I looked it up really quickly. So just so we can do this. This was April 2nd.
Yes, sir.
I'll vote yes.
Okay. Approved. Item D, overview of and discussion on FY27 Fire Department budget. I'd like to welcome Chief Steen here tonight. Thank you so much for coming in to talk with us.
Thank you all. Good evening. For those I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Derek Keene. I serve as the fire chief here in Smithfield. I'm a second-generation firefighter with 24 years of service. So public safety is not just my profession, it's in my blood. Beyond my role at the department, I'm also a Smithfield taxpayer and a proud dad to an 8-year-old daughter who attends our public schools and plays for the NRI Vikings and local hockey league. I have a personal stake in how this community spends its money, not just professionally, but as a parent, as a taxpayer who feels the important decisions of every budget decision. I look forward to the discussion tonight. Before I dive in, please know that this presentation is meant to inform and educate, not to tell anyone in this room something they don't already know. I simply want to make sure we're all working from the same information. I think it's important to start with the Smithfield Fire Department mission statement. When Chief Seltzer got here 13, 14 years ago, we did a strategic planning event for the fire department. We developed our mission statement, our vision statement, and it's quite simple. We're here to help people. The Smithfield Fire Department is dedicated to serving the citizens of this community, and ensuring their safety is our #1 priority. Every recruit that comes through the door to become a Smithfield firefighter is instilled with that, our mission to help people, to help this community. How do we meet the mission? We be our best each time, every time. There's no second chances. When lives are at stake, there's no do-overs. We treat people how we want to be treated, as if they're family. We train the most up-to-date technology and practices, and we stay educated. Smithfield firefighters are willing to lay their life down for complete strangers. Let me repeat that. Smithfield firefighters are willing to lay their life down for complete strangers. An overview of our department capabilities. We conduct fire suppression activities, our EMS services, which are conducted through our advanced life support system, our 3 rescues, where our deputy chief of EMS, who's in charge of community outreach, provides CPR training, stop the bleed training, and Narcan administration to our taxpayers. We have a mobile integrated healthcare system, which is an EMS-based program providing patient-centered care outside of hospitals, such as home visits by our paramedics to reduce ER readmissions. We respond to hazardous materials incidents. Be known that Route 295 corridor is the interstate highway that these hazardous materials are actually transporting down, along with our stakeholders in town of our industrial complexes, our commercial complexes. We provide fire prevention services, community outreach, residential, commercial, fire inspection, plan review, and fire investigation. Our 911 dispatch center serves as northern control for the northern portion of Rhode Island, where any mass incidents requesting for resources comes directly through the Smithfield Fire Department 911 Dispatch Center. We have drone operations for planned and unplanned events. This could be for missing persons in the woods, to our annual fireworks display, to our parades. It provides situational awareness from the sky. We have an underwater dive rescue team comprised of 10 to 13 members who are ready to dive in any body of water in this town. We have a special response unit. Those are our tactical medics tasked with responding to planned and unplanned events for mass casualty incidents. And lastly, we have technical rescue capabilities, collapse, confined space, trench rescue, search and rescue, rope rescue, and marine operations. We do this out of our 3 stations, our 3 infrastructure stations in town. Our headquarters station located at 607 Putnam Pike, that's our Station 1, built in 1939 by the Greenville Volunteer Fire Company, which houses Engine 1, Rescue 1, Chief 2, Boat 1, and Northern Control. The second station is Station 2, housed out of 66 Farnham Pike, built in 1938 by the Georgiaville Fire Company, housing Engine 2, Rescue 2, and Boat 2. And then finally, Station 3, 50 Log Road, built in 1960 by the Greenville Fire Company, which houses Tower Ladder 1, Rescue 3, and Boat 3. And I think it's important to state that the town of Smithfield has never built a fire station in this town. These were all done by fire companies. So our customers, who do we provide our outreach to? Who do we respond to? We obviously have Bryant University, which has approximately 3,500 students each year on campus. We respond to an unmanned airfield at North Central State Airport. That is an actual picture of one of our responses to a Learjet that slid off the end of the runway. And of course, we have our corporate campuses, Fidelity, Navigate, and so on. And I'll touch upon this in future slides, a Kramer and Associates study, but corporate citizens provide an added dimension of responsibility and a new source of service demands. To break down our responses per year, I broke down the 2025 responses, which are 5,397 total responses in this town. The majority of them, as you can see, 3,892 were EMS incidents. In the future slides, I'll show some bar graphs too, as how we're trending. I did a quick analysis of 2012 to 2025. In 2025, we had 5,397 runs. 2024, this department did 5,544 emergency runs, with a historical average in the decade of 2012 to 22 of around 4,400. Now, the year-over-year date was down by 147, but I can explain that in a future slide, between years 2024 and 2025. This bar graph shows in 2023 to 2025, the average is 23% above the prior decade baseline, where the historical average was 4,400 runs. So we're trending up. The key takeaways to those 2 bar graphs. even though 2025, we dropped 147 incidents from 2024, that was just a 2.7% decline. That's well within the normal year-to-year variation and does not signal a sustained downward trend. We've had an elevated plateau, 2023 through 2025, all sit well above the average of that last decade of 4,400. 3 consecutive years at this level represent a structural shift, not an anomaly. And then 2023 was the inflection point of when our calls started going up. Both 2024 and 2025 rank among the highest totals ever recorded by this fire department. I think it's important to note simultaneous incident activity. Out of those 5,397 runs last year, the cumulative percentage, at least 2 incidents were occurring at the same time in the town of Smithfield, 55.57% of the time. At least 3 incidents occurring at the same time, 34.4%. Our incidents in Smithfield involving mutual aid partners were 301 for the year 2025, and incidents involving aid given, where we went to mutual aid departments around us, was 226 for last year. EMS billing revenue. Third-party billing. We utilize a third-party group for EMS billing to maximize collections and compliance. This money is utilized to offset operational and capital costs each year. Approximately $1.4 million each year is generated from our EMS billing. Our year-to-date fiscal year 26 is $1.1 million through March, and our revenue is trending up. With the increase in call volume each year, this figure will continue to rise as well. Other sources of revenue to the fire department: local, state, and federal grants. Our Assistance to Firefighters grant, which is a federal FEMA grant supporting equipment, training, and firefighter safety programs. We were awarded an AFG grant for the total of $50,000 to purchase 3 Lucas CPR machines for our 2 engines in our ladder truck. Staffing for adequate fire and emergency response, SAFER. Federal grants to help departments maintain or increase staffing levels. It funded Smithfield's new hires. Rhode Island legislative grants through the Senate and House. State legislative funding supporting local fire department capital and operational needs. And then finally, Rhode Island trust grants. Safety and security grants. Those are grants focused on public safety and security improvements. We received $3,000 since I've been here in the past 7 months from the Rhode Island Trust. I've received a Senate grant for $1,000 and a House of Representatives grant through Representative Santucci for $1,000. Motor vehicle accident billing also adds to our revenue generated by billing at-fault parties and insurers when Smithfield Fire Department responds to motor vehicle accidents. That is a slide scale, approximately $3,500 to $7,000, and that is dependent on directly the call volume. Obviously, that number rises as we have more MVAs here in town. So those are some of the few basic revenue sources that we have available to us at the fire department. In 2016, a comprehensive analysis was performed to determine the capability of the fire companies and rescue units as currently organized in Smithfield, individually and collectively to deliver necessary fire protection, EMS, and other emergency services both now and into the future. That contracted cost, which was contracted by the town of Smithfield, then town manager Dennis Finley, and accepted by the town council with fees of $26,700, which was awarded to the Kramer & Associates Group. Their findings and priorities below were independently reviewed and endorsed by the Kramer & Associates Group consulting team. 2 priorities. 1, 24-hour coverage of a ladder company at Station 3. The second one, 24-hour coverage of Rescue 2, which followed ladder company priority. Their additional findings were corporate citizens provide an added dimension of responsibility and a new source of service demands, like I stated before. More businesses equal more demands. Following that roadmap that Kramer & Associates Consulting Group gave, Chief Seltzer in 2017 applied for a SAFER grant. And I quote Chief Seltzer from 2017, "Our request to hiring is based upon a risk analysis and review of our ISO rating. ISO is an insurance services office, which is an independent auditing organization funded by insurance companies. They conduct thorough community site visits, analyzing fire stations, fire apparatus, training records, staffing levels, equipment carried, and water supply. We are currently at an ISO Class 4. ISO Class 1 is the best. It goes all the way to ISO Class 10, no recognized fire protection. The lower the class equals the better fire protection, which equals lower insurance premiums to residents. FEMA bases a SAFER grant to a standard called NFPA 1710, which is Career Department Staffing Models. When awarding SAFER grants, FEMA evaluates staffing requests against the NFPA 1710 National Fire Protection Association Career Department Staffing Model recommendations. They look at minimum staffing per apparatus, initial attack crew requirements, on-scene assembly benchmarks, and response time standards. Continuing to follow that roadmap that Kramer and Associates provided us, Chief Seltzer in 2023 applied for a SAFER grant. And I quote Chief Seltzer from his 2023 SAFER grant application. The 12 firefighters will supplement the current staffing and allow for two outcomes. First, we will have sufficient staffing to staff the new North End station around the clock. Second, the addition of SAFER hires will give us enough firefighters on duty to maintain a townwide staffing of 16 firefighters per shift and still allow for 2 floaters on each platoon. How does the Smithfield Fire Department match up to the minimum staffing standards set by NFPA 1710? For single-family dwellings that we respond to, majority of the Smithfield responses, it states that you either have 16 or 17 firefighters on shift, and 17 is with an aerial device active. Smithfield operates an aerial device. NFPA minimum is 17 for a ladder truck operating on a fire seat. Smithfield Fire Department on-shift personnel. Per the SAFER grant staffing plan, we have 16 core shift firefighters plus 2 floaters. To meet that 1710 standard of 17, we're meeting both the 16-member requirement and the 17-member aerial device threshold with a buffer of 1 additional firefighter. Staffing that serves Smithfield, this comparison is based upon the questions by you folks. A manpower comparison between Smithfield Fire Department and North Kingston Fire Department. Smithfield population is somewhere between 22,000 and 23,000, whereas North Kingston's population is approximately 27,000. Our call volume was just under 5,400, like I stated earlier. However, that doesn't include fire prevention activities. North Kingston's call volume of 7,300 does include fire prevention activities. Community at a glance, that's just basically reiterating what I just stated. The budgets are similar. I spoke to the fire chief in North Kingston Fire Department. We are similar in budgets. The per shift staffing comparison between Smithfield Fire Department versus North Kingston Fire Department. We have 18 total on shift, including the 2 floaters. North Kingston Fire Department has 19, including their 2 floaters. We have a 911 dispatch center, which is not considered under minimum manning or minimum manpower per NFPA standard. Why Smithfield staffing level is justified? The staffing cost is invisible in a raw headcount comparison, but delivers faster local response, seamless interoperability, and direct accountability to residents. With EMS calls making up the majority of modern fire department responses, additional rescue staffing is not excess. It's the front line of community health care. Adequate staffing prevents the costly overtime spiral that understaffed departments face every time somebody calls out sick. The main thing is protecting the safety of the firefighters and the safety of our community members. Our current staffing, 84 total in the department. There's 76 total on the line right now with 8 total vacancies. I have 7 currently with 1 leaving within the next 2 weeks. We have 72 shift firefighters, which are 18 per shift, times 4 platoons, meeting the NFPA 1710 standard. Mobile integrated healthcare, we have 1 in that community paramedicine program. 7 headquarters staff and 4 911 dispatches. I assumed command 7 months ago. Inherited the department already managing open vacancies. Since that time, additional transitions have occurred through both resignations and retirements, each requiring active recruitment and succession planning. Overtime budget pressures, cause and solutions. Despite deploying floaters to cover vacancies first, the overtime budget remains in deficit, driven by structural factors outside standard schedule. I'm pursuing first in department history solutions to address the root causes. Why are our overtime remain elevated? Our injury on duty. IOD absences remove a firefighter from the shift roster while the position still must be filled for minimum manning. Extended medical, family, or other qualifying leave pulls personnel off the roster for weeks or months. Floaters absorb what they can, but prolonged absences exhaust that buffer quickly. Recent EMT basic hires cannot be assigned to a rescue unit per the CBA, collective bargaining agreement. This limits their utility in covering gaps on rescue designated positions, narrowing the floater pool for those roles. And per the department policy, floaters fill open vacancies before being available for overtime relief. With 5 IOD vacancies currently, this depletes the overtime buffer before it can be used as intended. Over the last 6 to 7 months that I've been here, it's averaged 5 to 7 IOD injuries. Solutions that I'm trying to pursue. I'm trying to develop an in-house pathway to upgrade EMT basic personnel to a higher credential level. The first time in Smithfield Fire Department history, this has been attempted. This would expand rescue eligible staffing from within. For the first time in department history, Smithfield Fire Department is exploring lateral transfers, bringing in already credentialed firefighters from other departments, which bypasses the lengthy recruit pipeline and immediately adds qualified personnel. We continue to apply floaters to open vacancies before generating overtime, minimizing costs whenever operationally possible, even as the vacancy levels make this increasingly difficult. And thinking outside the box. Recognizing that traditional public safety applicant pools are shrinking, I'm actively pursuing non-traditional recruitment channels to attract qualified candidates who may not have considered the fire service. The right people, the right staffing, the right investment. Understanding firefighting compensation in context. Smithfield firefighters earn their compensation through extraordinary risk, demonstrating good faith at the bargaining table, and a longevity structure that rewards retention, not excess. Firefighters are diagnosed with cancer at a rate significantly higher than the general population. The International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified firefighting as a Group 1 carcinogen. Heart disease is the leading cause of line-of-duty firefighter deaths. The physical and psychological demands of the job place significant strain on the cardiovascular system. PTSD and mental health, repeated exposure to trauma, death, and high-stress incidents leads to elevated rates of PTSD, depression, and suicide amongst firefighters. Risks that don't clock out at the end of shift. And then finally, physical injury and mortality. Firefighters operate in environments of extreme heat, structural instability, hazardous materials, and unpredictable conditions. Line-of-duty injuries and deaths are a reality of this profession. The longevity-based compensation is a structure built on longevity, rewarding experienced firefighters who have invested years in this community. This incentivizes retention of institutional knowledge and reduces costly turnover. In prior contract cycles, the union has demonstrated good faith at the bargaining table. Firefighters have historically negotiated with the fiscal realities of the town in mind, helping to manage costs responsibly. When the full occupational risk picture is considered, including cancer, cardiac events, PTSD, and mortality, the compensation structure reflects what is reasonable for a profession that asks individuals to run towards danger. In the community investment, experienced firefighters who stay in Smithfield become embedded in the community, knowing the streets, knowing the buildings, and the people. Retaining that knowledge has measurable public safety value. How I built the budget. 4-step model. I look backwards. What did we spend last year? Prior year actuals served as a statistical baseline for every line item in this submission. Historical spending trends, not just budget numbers, were used to project realistic needs. I left 2 line items intentionally blank in my submittal. Overtime, so I could open up a dialogue with the finance director and town manager on a line item that has exceeded budget every single fiscal year. Special services. Prior on-call personnel pension payouts figures were not available at the time of submittal. Then I look forward. What do we need this year? Operational goals, community service commitments, staffing transitions, and salary dollars not spent due to vacancies directly offset overtime, reducing the true net overtime impact below what the line item alone suggests. Tried to bridge the gap. What's new? What can be cut? Our Florida First policy reduces overtime generation to the best of our ability. Vacancy salary savings buffers the overtime overruns. And then finally, monitor and adjust. Budget is a living document. This budget is not a one-time exercise. It's a living document that must be reviewed, measured, and refined throughout the fiscal year. I'm committed to sitting down following this presentation to address any gaps or questions that remain. This is a collaborative effort between the firefighters union, the town officials, department leadership, all parties at the table, working toward a budget that serves Smithfield's residents and those who protect them. A budget built on facts, submitted in good faith, and open to collaboration. Thank you.
Excellent job. Excellent.
Great job. Thank you for that presentation. There was a lot of great information in there. You're obviously very passionate about the protection of the Smithfield residents, and I appreciate everything you and all the members of your department are doing.
Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to
Ditto to that, you're right.
at this time I'm going to open it up to questions to the board members. Yes, and like we did last week, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to go slide by slide. So if you can reset back to the beginning of the presentation, it helps us keep our questions topical as we go through it, that we don't end up missing things.
I'll talk about your slides deck in a little bit, or hopefully I'll laugh about it. The one thing I would suggest you do is put slide numbers on it. That way we can just focus. And we'll do it sequentially.
Sure, okay. Thank you.
All right, let's jump a couple ahead here. All right, with the capabilities, does anyone have any questions on our capabilities for the department?
Let's see, fire suppression, EMS, mobile integrated hazmat and fire protection.
Mobile integrated healthcare is a new position that got fielded last year, partially funded through an opioid grant.
Correct.
And that position moving forward is still under the opioid grant.
So
It's a
can we,
senior level EMT, right?
Correct, so originally it was a CDC grant that ran out at the end of last year, which absorbed that, that salary, and now we're using opioid money to now fully fund that position. What happened was, my predecessor, interim chief Matt Pearson and Chief Seltzer, had to forecast the ending of that grant to put them till July 1, when the MIH position comes into the new fiscal budget, which will now be absorbed obviously by opioid money. So how that money gets transferred from opioid, I can let Caitlin and the chief know, where it comes back into the operating budget of the fire department. That's what they see, not what I see.
so just to clarify that, that's going to be funded for a whole year on the opioid, or just 6
It's-
months?
No, subsequent years, for years to
We
come.
have enough to fund it for Quincy.
Okay.
That was going to be my fault.
I don't have an exact number I can get you.
I would like you to follow up with how long we have to be able to fund that out of the opioid fund.
Well, that's a little unclear, because we get money every
Yeah,
year.
so that's a continuous, every time they have a settlement,
Mm-hmm.
each city and town gets a
It's like
portion
the
of that
pool,
money.
it's
So
like the
we've been
pool.
receiving money,
Right.
sporadically, over the course of the last, like, what, four or 5 years.
A question on that would be, once that money is exhausted, do we own that person, or is it still considered to be probation? I don't know.
Is the role opioid funded, and if that funding dries up, the role is eliminated, or is there a separate contingency to retain that?
I think the issue here is that we're seeing a a major increase in the people utilizing that service. So there's probably, and the way the money's been coming in, it's probably gonna be around for 10 years or so at least. But the number of people, I think we have about 80 people right
We're in the mid-80s, correct?
Okay, so we're already up, they depend upon this, so it's one of these things that's gonna have to be absorbed if the money goes away. But the other side to that is there's legislation and avenues to try to fund these now for all the communities, so that at some point, there's a funding source either through Medicare or the hospitals. So we're working on other, and now the rural health grant's gonna fund some of it for a few years. So there's been a big push on funding this because of the number of people that are utilizing this. And also, our community is only one of about 6 in the state.
I was just gonna say, we are spearheading this effort. This community outreach program began with 20 applicants, if you will, and now up to mid-80s, and we service anything. We help anybody in this community out, so they don't have to go to the hospital. We help them with medications, wound dressing, anything that will prevent them and allow them to stay in their home where they're comfortable. So again, we really are leading the charge on this.
Are you seeing the services, those type of services provided to other than the elderly?
Yeah, actually, absolutely. People with disabilities, Pete, anything like that. We, again, being there to help in any situation that we can, we're gonna do it. So, yeah.
All right, Ken, I think you had a,
Yeah, I did. So I was just going to ask you, well, by the way, welcome to Smithfield, because you came from another municipality, or didn't?
I was working for Babson College for 2 years. Yeah.
So you didn't come from a community, you came from.
He was on the fire department for how many years before?
21 years.
Oh,
21 years,
yeah.
he was in Smithfield.
Thanks. 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 I appreciate that, Peter. Appreciate that. I mean, you and the PD are, so I just want to say that, and you're right around the corner from me, so I pass by your station and brought food every so often when I remember. I apologize. So I think you already started to answer my first question, which is that MIH is really and it's not 24 hours, the clinic that's in the Papagino's parking lot. You're providing some of those services at the home so they don't have to go to another.
Correct.
Okay, that you can do.
Correct.
Before
Correct. It's oversight with our medical director, Dr. Nick Asselin. It can only be paramedic level
It's in a box.
participants, correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And I'm assuming if you couldn't fix it, whatever it is, you would then transfer.
Right, and that also kind of frees up the EMS services here in town.
Very
Where the
good.
people that need those extra EMS services through the rescues are not calling the rescues needlessly, not needlessly, obviously, but in non-emergent situations.
A splinter, for the lack of a better term, they're not calling for a splinter.
Correct.
And I'm just making that.
Yeah.
not
and
to get a call.
the MIH, that's healthcare reimbursed, or it's a pure community cost?
No, so it's not healthcare reimbursed yet. Like the chief had said, we're actively pursuing legislature on a state level to try and do that. It's not new. This is around the country. It's just new maybe to this area.
Yeah, and sort of to divert a little bit, we've got to be careful as a society, and I know we don't want to hear this as municipalities. I used to work for an insurance company for 10 years, so I know how this stuff works. We're passing the money around. That's really all we're doing. We have one of the highest in the country medical costs, and I know we've experienced it, we've looked at it in the budget. And Medicare is another one of the pools. So there's nothing we can do about it, but we just got to be cautious about this, because all we're doing, like the EMS stuff, all we did was transfer it from our budget to employers, because it's now in the Blue Cross rates for the or whatever company it's doing. So it's a pot of money that's being shuffled around. It really is. So I want to make this clear before we leave this slide, and I'm not going to hold you, but this is not going to run out in the next 2 to 3 years. Is that okay? That's all I care about right now. That's all I care about right now, because some of us in this room will be me, I might be dead in 10 years, so I don't know what's going to happen. So I'll wait for some other questions, because I have some other questions.
Any other questions on capabilities? All right, let's move to the next one. Okay, so I did have a question on this slide. So we have these 3 stations. I have a couple questions. pretty old facilities. Do you have any data on the last time each of the facilities were remodeled or brought up to current standards?
Most of them don't fall under current ADA standards. They're so outdated. We don't have any accessibility to our second floor, which is our headquarters fire prevention at our headquarters station. So again, they can only come into the apparatus bay and then that's it. So again, go ahead.
I want you to cut you off.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate the fact, and I'll say it on the record, I've been in Station 1, but it hasn't been for a few years. If we weren't a government, we would be fine. I know I've said that to Bob and other people. What I am concerned, it's going to sound like an antagonistic question, but we just did a lot of work on the log work because I go by there every day.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is we spent X dollars and we're still not ADA compliant at that location?
Correct. So at Station 3, it's a one-story structure, right? So I'm not going to stand here as an expert witness to ADA compliance because that's not my forte. But I will tell you that that addition that was put on at Station 3 was paid for by ARPA money. And again, that was to house, obviously, Tawalata 1, so it had, had a home. And to protect our investment, that's a over $1 million truck at the time, and now $2 million to purchase now. So we had to get it indoors.
Understand. So, and I know there was a lot of talk about this, because again, I drive by there every day. What are you planning to do with the thing next to it? I don't know what the heck, it looks like a Quonset hut, to be honest with you. I mean,
Yeah, no, I can
that's
answer
how I got
that.
the name.
As of this Saturday, we're moving it to the back of Station 3, so it's not in the forefront in the drill yard.
So it's going to go in the back near the
Correct,
water.
so,
Okay.
right, so it's gonna kind of be hidden behind that building, kind of clean up that grounds. Again, I will work with this administration, the town council, budget, to figure out how we can start funding infrastructure, right? The thing that we always hear is about crumbling infrastructure, outdated facilities. We'll develop a plan moving forward on how to tackle that collectively and cautiously.
My follow-up question to that is, what are we going to use it for? Forget moving it for a second. Why are we moving it and keeping it and maybe not selling it?
Very good point. It's because we've already purchased it.
Understand.
We're a lack of storage at our 3 firehouses. That stores trucks that can't be stored inside of the bays.
Okay.
There are only 3 bays in each station, so we're kind of stuck there. So that was a strategic way to kind of protect our investment of our reserve apparatus while keeping out of the elements.
So if I take a walk behind there, I'll see a truck there sometime?
Absolutely, absolutely, I promise you.
All right, thank
So
you.
this has to do with the ladder truck that you said was already purchased?
The addition for Station 3 that was put on, the new
Yes.
addition, that was for Tawalata 1, correct.
I have a question on the fire apparatus as well, because I'm looking at the next slide, and I think it's the next slide, on the amount of fires that we have.
Oh, hold on,
Hold on,
before
skipped.
we move forward, you're skipping one, and I do have a question on the station. So, back in, I believe it was 2018, there was a bond measure for the town that approved the funding for a new fire station. Taking a critical look at the approval of that, and I remember, that's a number of years ago, but I remember part of the discussion at that time was the closure of a station to open the new station. Okay, thank you. I'm glad I'm not the only one who remembers that.
That's
So-
incorrect.
Yeah.
That's not.
There was a couple opportunities, right? So when Kramer came in and Kramer and Associates and did their analysis of our operational department as a whole, they said there was multiple areas that were uncovered within that 1710 standard, which mandates within 4 minutes or 8 minutes of a response.
Thank you. That actually was going to be one of my follow-up questions. 4 minutes or 8 minutes?
Correct, and it's 90% of the time. So what happens is they gave us a map with overlays to show where those response times would fall into for the entire town if we moved stations, if we closed stations, and it was determined the best modeling was to keep all stations open. This is our central firehouse right here at Log Road. It only makes sense to put our most expensive piece of apparatus in this firehouse, which is a ladder truck. It's not a fire truck. Doesn't have the hose, doesn't have the water capabilities. So again, that 4 stations is the perfect model for this town, based on.
I would like as follow-up to see the overlay maps that.
Absolutely.
they
Sure.
provided, please.
So I got a very quick question about this, and it's only, again, only because I leave here all the time. Here's what I'm very concerned about, and it's not anybody who's in this room's fault. Sandtrace, which is literally right across the street from my driveway. I hated it, I still hate it, I think the town, there's an illegal part of that I wish I had $1 million more in the bank, because I would sue the hell out of it. Because there was a breaking of Rhode Island state law to approve that place. That road is dangerous. Log Road is absolutely, I don't know how your guys get the hell out of there. You know what I'm worried about? Because I heard that the state has already approved, but it might be 4 years from now, a light at Log Road and Pleasant View. Is that true?
I haven't heard it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I thought. So here's my, I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't know how the hell you're gonna get out of there. I really don't know. Because if there's people coming in and it's backed up on Log Road, and it ain't gonna get any easier with a couple hundred cars when that opens up. I'm extremely worried about, put it on the record, I'm extremely worried. Nobody created this road, except for the sand.
No, that's not gonna happen.
Okay,
It's gonna
On
have
the right.
the traffic, what's the name of the company that makes it? So there's gonna be sensors on that light, which the state is putting in. When trucks pull out of there, the sensor on their truck will turn them green and make everything else red.
that's what I'm hoping would happen. You understand what
The
I'm
state
saying,
is
Bob?
putting that on.
Okay, but there's gotta be also sensors to get that left-hand side, when you're leaving to a Pleasant View, incoming cars, left-hand side is up leaving. If you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it'll be green, and everything on it this way will be red.
When you say this way, you mean
But when
Pleasant.
you leave Log Road, it'll be green for everybody,
Agreed.
okay? And it'll be red for everything else. So the cars will go through and the fire truck can follow right through.
What happens if a whole, so it's gonna be red with no right turn on red to go from Pleasant View, just hear me out, Bob.
Yeah,
Take a right-hand turn on Pleasant View to go on Log Road. That's what I'm concerned about, because that's where the.
the right hand coming from the police station,
Correct.
yeah, it'll all be red. I don't know if they're gonna put a right hand light.
That's
there.
my point. Bob,
Yeah,
that's my
I
point.
understand that, but that's, they are gonna put the preemption, the preemption is going in there.
I want this number there.
All right, moving forward so we can focus on the budget aspect, please. I understand the concern, the
I wanna
community
bring up-
concerns
I wanna
of
bring
the traffic patterns and the developments in town, but I want to try to keep us
understand.
focused as much as we can on the budget aspects.
But there is a preemption device going on.
Any other questions on the stations themselves? All right, let's move forward a slide, please. Any questions on community impacts, corporations? Okay.
Just a quick one?
Yeah.
There are employees there.
Sure.
Okay, you didn't mention that.
You're right. Yeah, I
I
stand
don't wanna
corrected.
die.
Yep,
And I know that natural gas thing happened last
loud
year.
and clear.
Yeah, that's okay, that's okay.
You're
You're
right.
gonna save us as well.
Next slide. Okay, immediate first question on this one. We have lots of beautiful empty boxes on this slide. I'd like to see a revised version of this to build this data out over multiple years. If we get a 5, 8, 10, I don't know how your data structure is set up, but the kind of the longer the better we can see the breakout.
You can see 6 more years based on your.
The only thing that, I'm gonna attempt to this, but we changed our incident reporting system from an old system that's obsolete now, which isn't customer service oriented anymore, to our new nearest reporting system, which I took this out of our brand new EPL Fireworks, which has got our data. So again, I'm gonna attempt everything I can. If I can, I have the total numbers, but a breakdown like this might be more difficult.
The number of people on the board here really solid with data. We'd be more than happy to help dig into that with you.
Okay.
You wanna go backwards or forward?
Backwards.
Backwards in time.
Right. 2, 4, 2, 3.
I have some that you did last year.
Yeah,
we already have these.
We have some of them here.
So pairing up where we
They
can.
actually even talk about the number of employees that you had for the last 5 years too, which is something that we need to discuss.
Matt had done some,
Okay,
so I'm sure he knows where he's going.
okay,
I have nothing until last year.
okay, sounds
Do
good.
what you can. I mean,
Yeah, it's not gonna be a perfect alignment, but the closer we can see kind of the year over year, even if it's merging a couple of these ones or splitting, making best guesses on the other ones, to give us kind of an apples to apples comparison.
as long as the bottom line number, which I think is what Ian's getting to, as long as the bottom line number matches the totals, Rob.
Yeah.
How the deck chairs look, if you can get it.
Oh,
Sounds good.
I don't think so, I disagree with that.
Well-
We don't want just the bottom number, we
I-
want to know the actual.
I didn't say that. I
Oh.
said, I didn't say that. I said for what he can get in the detail on top. He might,
Okay.
it might be aggregated differently.
Sure.
That's why. He might have to add rows 3 and 4 together or something.
Okay, very good. Well, I do have a question on this too, and I thank you for your service and everything you've done. You put a good presentation together, you put a lot of time into it. But I'm concerned about the budget because it keeps going up $1 million every year, and it's expended even more than what we budget. So back in 2012, when our chief came, our budget was only 4.5 million, and the population was very close to what it is now, 21,000. So the population didn't change that much, but the budget was 4.5, and what was spent was 4.6. And here we are now, and for the last 5 years, which is why I got involved with the board as a volunteer basis to try to understand it better. What I see here is that looking at the EMTs, that's like 72% of your calls.
It's 80 to 90%, correct?
Yes, so a town like South Kingston uses a collaboration of several towns to handle those. And that's why their budget is so much less than us. Their EMTs is part of the police department, and they have a separate fire department which has a separate budget. But nevertheless, the fires that I see over here is only 1% of all the calls.
Mhm.
But yet we have all this fire apparatus, including the ladder truck,
Mhm.
and for 1% of the calls. Now, that 1% could be life or death, I understand that.
Yeah.
But that's something we need to keep in mind, that most of these calls are EMT calls. And I'm wondering if we could think outside the box somehow to try to get other towns involved, like South Kingston does, to try to reduce this budget. Because South Kingston has a lower budget than we do, and they have plenty more people than we do, because they separate the EMTs, the police, and the fire.
Now,
So just something to keep in
where
mind.
you've seen that they have other towns involved in the responses,
Correct.
is that an area
Like
agreement?
Charleston and South Kingston and
But
other towns.
those areas use, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't know the data yet,
Mhm.
but volunteers too. You know, there might be paid on
The
call
fire
schedules.
volunteers, but not the EMTs.
Right, correct.
EMTs is privatized among.
SCEMS, yep, South Kingston EMS,
Okay.
correct.
Right.
Yep, yep.
Okay, so
that's-
it's privatized, not a.
It's private.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
No, it's
different,
Third-party
third,
EMS.
yeah,
Okay.
third-party EMS, correct,
Right, but that's 80% of our calls,
correct.
and fires are only 1%. So it's just something to keep in mind. And I know we have all these other incidents, which is very important to look at, including the hazardous and,
Yeah,
but that just brings back the question on a ladder truck for 1% of fire calls, you know? And the taxpayers are really at a burden right now. We've got so much money out, not only the fire truck, but just so many other things, lawsuits, Camp Shepherd, Overlook, all these things that we're trying to narrow this down. And the superintendent of the schools came in and they gave a presentation like you did, and they came in and said, this is what we think we could cut. And they came in with things that they offered to cut, and which I thought was a great presentation as well. They're showing in good faith that we're trying to reduce this budget because we know it's getting expensive and times are tough. But this budget's going up again, another $1 million. And it just has to stop. It's just too much.
Me to trade true.
well, I can chime in real quick, Chief.
Well, yeah, because
So-
we've talked about this, so.
So we, obviously, and I don't know school department's budget, I don't know how they, you know, what regulation entities that are, you know, oversight over them.
Yeah.
But with NFPA 1710, it strictly states that you gotta have 17 on a shift to effectively and safely respond to fires in town. And I understand the minimum percentage,
Mhm.
but again, are you willing to sacrifice safety of taxpayers and firefighters for litigation of that end of it if we're understaffing and under-responding to those incidents? Now, those fires that you see, that, you know, 23 that are laid into that, like you said, there's other things. We're also going to alarms, we're also going to other things where you gotta respond. The safety of having a ladder truck on duty it's twofold. It's to effectively put your house out and suppress that fire quickly. It's also meant to open up the roof to get the ventilation and fresh air in, which makes the firefighters' jobs inside. It makes it a lot safer. You gotta ventilate a building. Fires are down across the country. Early detection, fire alarm systems. You know, those have now, we're not burning like we're in the 80s, the 70s anymore. Providence is the same way.
Right.
You know, but again, for us to effectively and safely do it, that ladder truck has to be on the road. And that's why NFPA 1710 is strict about those numbers.
And I would agree. You need a variety of equipment to be able to appropriately serve the town. And a ladder truck makes perfect sense on that.
Can I just add one more thing here before you move forward
Yes.
to the next point? That truck also houses our heavy extrication equipment, jaws of lifes, airbags, things like that, ladders that, we gotta get high, people off rooftops. So again, it's a very versatile piece, it's a toolbox.
Right,
You know?
could that equipment be also put on another truck as well?
No, there's no room. Engines are specifically built for suppression activities, where ladder trucks are specifically built to reach tall areas of buildings.
You just brought up a question,
Mhm.
so before we get the truck, where do we put the jaws of life?
We actually had them on the engine. We had them on the engines,
Okay.
but they were overloaded. We're breaking leaf springs because we were throwing a bunch of stuff into the truck. Our
They get
maintenance
the power
cost
from the
came.
truck?
What's that?
They get the power from the truck?
No, they were hydraulic units.
Okay.
So you'd actually physically have to take them out. Now we have battery operated. With technology, lithium ion has made these tools smaller. So we still carry jaws equipment, extrication equipment on the engines, but very small. Just a quick cutter spreader to open up somebody's door so we can access them in the NVA. Go ahead, Chief, if you wanted to add anything.
Yeah, I don't think, so look, we've already talked about this, so I might as well just get to the chase of the whole thing. First of all, every piece of fire apparatus is ALS people on it. Our rescues aren't in town all day. They're at the hospital. So you have a cardiac arrest situation, and that's why all our CPR devices are on the fire apparatus. They're not on the rescues. Because the rescue pulls in, they initiate CPR, a bad medical call, they get going on, rescue comes in behind, they transport. So when a rescue's out, that's their other duty. They're firefighting and they do EMS, okay? My goal, and pass it on to the chief here, the last thing you want to do is get rid of fire apparatus because your homeowner's insurance is going to go through the roof.
Yeah.
And for anybody who has a business, you might as well forget about buying insurance. You won't be able to get it, okay? Because our goal with ISO 4 is to get us to an ISO 2, which I know we can do after the new station's done and revamp our fire alarm dispatch. And that'll save a ton of money for people, but especially the businesses. I mean, if you're paying $1 million insurance, you probably save $100,000 on it. But, it's true. Don't give me the face on it. 'Cause look, I've been
It
doing
will
this.
save them money, you're right,
Well,
in
so you-
insurance, but it's gonna cost on the other end as well. So,
Well,
do you pay more
what-
taxes, or do you
well-
pay more insurance?
Well, here, we have a fix for this. Let me just, I'm not gonna argue about it.
We're not arguing, we're just
Well, I
bringing it up.
understand that, but there's a responsibility of this community
Mhm.
to provide proper services, police, fire, DPW, the whole 9 yards.
Sure.
The last thing we're gonna do, because people like living in this community, we provide very good services, the last thing we're gonna do is cut them and cut back. That doesn't make any sense.
But one thing,
Well-
Bob, we were at so much less 5 years ago.
Yeah,
and we
you will
still
understand.
provided service, and we're probably still at an ISO.
You will
4.
understand.
We weren't understaffed.
Sure we will. You know why we added more rescues on? We were bringing 250 in a year, so people were waiting 15 minutes for a rescue to show up.
Well,
So anyways,
There's a lot to
listen.
discuss, I know this continues.
No, so this is we've already talked about this, okay? For the next 3 years, we're gonna cut manpower. Okay? And I can't go into too many details because we're in negotiations right now with the union. To the point of maybe 4 to 6 people for 3 years. Okay? There'll be an incremental increase in overtime to cover the hours, but not as much as we're paying for the people because of all the benefits and everything that goes along with it. At the end of the day, our goal is still to get us to an ISO 2, okay? Probably in years 4 and 5, because the station will be built, we'll be in there next spring, we've got some firearm stuff and training stuff to do, we'll make the ISO 2. We cannot become an ISO 1 because we're not hydrogen throughout the entire time, so we'll never make an ISO 1. We'll make an ISO 2. The only thing that may happen, and we're going to talk to the union, obviously it's a firefighter safety issue and some other stuff, I think we're comfortable that we can talk to them and make this happen. We're gonna rearrange some of our response capabilities, how we do it, okay, and how we utilize the personnel. But the only thing I would say, after the 3 years are up, and we get into years 4 and 5, there's a possibility we may need a couple of firefighters to meet our ISO obligation.
Okay.
To make it all work, and we get the savings, and we have the appropriate amount of personnel to make sure we get coverage. Yes, sir.
Just a quick comment on the ISO rating, fire rating on property. For the record, my business is insurance, that's what I do. You know, as long as you stay within ISO 2 to 5, it doesn't have a negative impact on the insurance premium on properties. It's when you go above 5 and you get into like protection class 9,
Right. Right.
and then you start to pay extra premium as a result. So that's just.
So when they
just
stop looking at distance to trucks and all
Sure.
that stuff, you get a little bit.
Your rating right now is still favorable for.
Oh, yeah, it's not
for the
bad.
insurance rate.
It's definitely
So,
not bad.
on average, even moving from a 4 to a 3 to a 2 wouldn't impact the typical Smithfield
It's not gonna have that much.
business or...
It's not gonna have that much effect on property premium, and specifically the property piece of the insurance product.
Cool. And Bob, you don't control insurance any more than anybody else is. My insurance company didn't even know. They would jack my rates up because they said my station was too far. And I said, I
It was too far.
I wish I could make this stuff up. So, and it's,
Plus we've
again,
got hydrants over there.
They look for fire hydrants within.
so I agree with Peter, and I'm glad you said it. I want you guys to be the best that you could possibly be, just like last week's discussion with the school department. But there's a cost benefit of moving up in rankings and ratings and all that other stuff. That's,
Well, we're gonna be there with everything we're doing.
that's okay. If we get it to zero, that's
We're
fine.
gonna be there.
Let's not talk about everybody's rate's gonna go down, because then you're gonna get blowback. as
Well,
Peter's-
there is, and I don't take this the wrong way, but there is some ways that they do some stuff with local businesses based on how far away you are and some other
Yes.
stuff I'm aware of.
So the business
So
is probably
there's
different.
business,
It is a property rating factor.
yes,
Understand.
yes, so.
Yes.
I just don't want to just.
But the
No, but it has some impacts to help the community versus going in the other direction.
But part of that ISO rating is not just proximity to a fire station or a hydrant. It is exactly what he was talking about, active duty fire force,
Correct.
and not a volunteer fire force. That's
Correct.
what- Like protection class 9 is volunteers.
It's all volunteer, yeah.
Chances are you're.
So that's what we propose to do, and we understand the financial situation. So I think we're meeting with the union Wednesday, just so you know what we're thinking. We're meeting with the union on Wednesday, and I'm sure we can have numbers for you next week, because I already got an idea what we have to take into consideration. You can continue to ask me questions, but we're looking at a significant amount of money. Several hundred thousand.
So, you know, I was assigned to this board.
What's that?
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Compared to 13 million, it's not.
What's that?
Compared to 13 million.
That's what it takes to operate the fire department.
I know, but Bob, I just want to say.
Several
one last
hundred
thing.
thousand over the next 3 years is going to be a big savings.
We've had 68 employees in 2019 to 2022.
Right.
And then we had this big jump, 72 employees, 71 employees, 78, 84, and 84. We just have so many employees.
Yeah, and they all have a job.
Okay.
I think
Well,
you
and
get,
I think that's actually where, as we get some of the answers on the volumes
That's
year
what I
over
want,
year.
that's what I want.
That's, so I want to table the head count part, so we
So
can
we get
see
the numbers.
the impact of those
let me just
numbers.
make sure you're not getting EMS and fire confused.
Well, and that's part of
That's
my,
where we want to
that's
go.
why I
Because
want
fire,
those numbers.
every member of the department does everything. They're all EMTs, they're all ALS certified, he's an EMT, and they cover, what doesn't matter what kind of call they have to deal with. So they're all EMTs, just so you understand.
I just gotta get this off my
Level
chest.
1 certified.
What's
One
that?
thing.
If they're over level 1 certified.
They all are.
Okay.
They're either paramedic or cardiac, entire
So
department.
they can all plug into the rest of it.
Oh, yes, they do all the time.
Chris, you had another question?
A couple of years ago, my wife got stung by the 10 bees.
Yeah.
She called me, she panicked, she can't talk, she goes to the station in Georgeville. No one answers the door.
Yep, nobody was there.
They're in training.
Yep.
Why would you leave a station unmanned?
They're never manned. They're probably manned 4 hours out of the day maybe?
Yeah, I mean.
Between calls, training,
I had to pick her
detours.
up and take her to the emergency room.
That's why we tell people,
Driving,
we tell people to call 911. We always tell them, do not drive to the fire station.
Each fire station has a emergency phone on the exterior of the building that you can pick up. It directly accesses our dispatch center.
yeah, I don't think it was
Yeah.
working.
So,
But anyways, that's, you know, that's something that's been haunting me for a
one
while.
of the questions I do have, so it was mentioned earlier, South Kingston is third-party EMS, I think you call it?
Yes.
Now, does that mean the direct community municipality doesn't fund it, and it
Yes, they
is?
do.
They still fund it?
They
Okay.
run it and fund it. When you talk third party, that means you have fire, police, and EMS. So police and fire make two parts, EMS makes the third part. Third party EMS is within a community. When you talk about subcontracted EMS, that's when you hire a private company.
And that's one, I'm curious, because looking at EMS is the bulk of our calls.
Yeah.
Have we done an analysis to see what the cost would be to hire it out, to go with a third-party company versus
No, we
operating
haven't.
it ourselves?
I don't think there's any desire for that. It doesn't work.
Okay. And by the way, I'm not, you're an expert in.
No, it's been disastrous when you do that, because the connection with the community's lost. A
Yeah.
bunch of
Right, yeah.
Massachusetts departments did that in the 90s, early 2000s came around, they fired them all and brought their own people back in.
How
It
about
just-
other
It didn't
towns?
connect with the community.
Collaborating.
Cumberland does the same thing, same model as South Kingston.
Mhm.
Fire districts,
Right?
EMS is separate, the
Yes.
paramedics, and then obviously the police department.
So 2 large towns in the state are doing it, and it must be working if they're still doing it.
Doing what?
The third party.
But
It's-
it's
it's
their
the-
own EMS people.
Yeah.
They just don't do fire, they just.
Yeah. And I'm guessing at that point you get more leadership overhead because you have to have a separate leadership structure
Correct.
for EMS versus a joint leadership
Yeah.
structure for.
Yes, that's
Okay.
Correct.
All right, this slide we really.
Very, very quick question, because I'm confused. Later on, you said you were comparing us to North Kingston. Am I wrong about that? Because then South Kingston.
No, North Kingston was in my question.
Okay, those are some of the
I have
direct
a whole bunch
questions.
of questions.
Sure.
Okay, let's move forward on the slide. We're going into the emergency incident totals. Any questions here or the next slide with bar graphs?
I can do a quick one. I get this. I've seen a lot of interesting presentations from the people that I have to teach. I want to get offline and find out how you did it, because I'm just curious, but I don't want to put it on the record. What I want in this, I want a moving average. Moving averages are the best way to get rid of outliers. That's what I teach, because you might have up and down, and so you can smooth it out over a 5-7 year period. I'll let you decide that. But when we see numbers like this, they're at a point in time. You know, COVID would look a lot different, probably, I'm guessing, in any direction.
Mhm, Absolutely.
So, but that's a blip, that's an outlier. So what I'd like to see from every town plan, when it's going to numbers, moving 5-year averages. That's the best way to do it. Okay? Just, and I'll talk about that.
All right, and then on the next slide where you're showing the bar graphs, I guess one of the questions I have, I mean, it's obvious, tons more calls.
Mhm.
Is that new services being provided? Like, did we massively grow our EMS operations? Is that including the MIH position at that
That's how
point?
busy this town is.
Yeah.
That's exactly, we're busy. The people just coming in and out of the town of Smithfield, that's our average now, the past 3 years. You know, calls for service.
And the other thing I'm not aware of, we have a transient population in Smithfield, about 30,000, 20,000 per day come into Smithfield.
Right. But on that note too, North Kingston had 7,000 calls, and their budget is the same as ours.
But just remember that 7,000 calls
Yes.
includes their fire prevention division. We didn't include that in the statistics.
Okay,
That's just emergency runs.
so what do you think our fire prevention would be? Not 2,000, would it?
I could get it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're busy. I mean,
Why don't we get that in?
absolutely.
Yeah, that'll be built out on the other slide that we're looking forward to. And, no, I was just gonna check any more questions on this.
Yeah, those calls that you did in the beginning here in the graph, what do they represent?
Exactly. So what I put in the graph was all of these.
Yeah, you had mentioned that North Kingston included
They did.
Fire prevention, what's
fire prevention calls in their numbers, and you did not.
Correct.
What's a fire prevention call?
I'm sorry. inspection numbers, so every time one of our inspectors goes out to inspect your commercial property, your residential property for resale, they're assigned a number. That kind of, like I said, in North Kingston, kind of you inflate the emergency runs by putting that number, but it still calls for service. It's still showing us boots on the ground, working, and it shows how many times per year that those, and that's a fluctuation, right, Peter? Like, so we have a lot of construction here in town. So every time they go out for one of those inspections, that generates a number.
And are those fee-based permit activities?
It depends.
Okay,
So it's part of the inspection, the plan review,
okay.
you know, so that gets uploaded. Resales are actually paid events. So every time you sell your house, you get the smoke detector inspection, that's a fee.
Okay. Okay.
Question. Is there something missing, or is that just a bigger gap between the light blue and the blue? Like where that little thing is on the bottom, is there a missing, because we can't see the years with that little white thing on the bottom.
Oh, I'm sorry, so that's
No, it's okay.
22, 23, 24, 25.
Okay, so that bigger gap between the two, that's not a missing?
No,
That's what, okay, that's
no,
what.
yeah, my apologies.
No,
That's-
no.
So
okay.
the light blue is the historical, the past decade, the dark blue is the elevated from the 23, 24, 25 year.
Two comments. I appreciate what you said. I do. What I would appreciate from this is a relationship between state traffic data, okay, real data that they probably down their cameras and everything, to quantify the number of visitors. That's what, and obviously the residents we have, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. And obviously 3 or 4 months out of the year, 4 months out of the year, you don't have, I got to be careful what I say, a certain place in town
Right.
that doesn't have a lot of people.
Right.
So we need to see a counteractive thing here, and that's what I try to teach the kids, is that numbers like this by themselves don't tell the whole story. That's what I want to start seeing, because I did the numbers while you were talking, and I was still listening to you. So 2000, the last year, which I don't have the years in here, was 5397. That was the 9th highest of all of this, okay? It was minus 2.4%. I have 2.7, by the way. But the next one was 1.7. So the year-over-year percentage is really important to see. I mean, the graph does show it, but you also had some dips. That's why the moving average is going to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. So, because you had a high year, your highest year was 13.5, and I don't have the year in here, it was 45.24, whichever one that was. But,
Well, that's 2020 into 2021, so that would
Correct.
be why it's,
correct.
Mhm.
And so, that, because,
That was the COVID year.
yeah.
correct. And so that's an outlier. So again, the moving average.
Sure.
All right, let's move to the next slide. On the key takeaways, any questions? I mean, it's a recap of the prior slide.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate. This would become clearer if we did some different things, and that's what I would suggest. If we need help on the point.
All right, next slide.
So there's no
Sorry.
big event that happened in 2023 that we think will
Increase of call volume.
It
That's
will be
good.
happening in a month or a month and a half.
Right?
Pretty soft people.
What's coming?
No comment.
I mean, I'll say, actually, this was really telling. I really appreciated this slide. I know it's not a question about the budget, but it's just showing how often you have multiple concurrent incidents. Did anyone have any questions on this one?
I can concur, I hear that fire truck, you know, people all along
And that's just one of the stations.
during the day.
I'm far enough away, I don't hear it.
And I'm nosy, so I have to look out and see what's going on.
She's in
So you had 226 events last year in town that required other towns mutual aid.
No, Peter, 226, we went mutual aid to another town.
Okay,
301 came into this town. That was 301 calls that we couldn't take care of ourselves.
because they were responding.
Because they were out, tied up on other
Not because of
calls.
the situation overwhelmed.
No.
No, it was trending up or down.
You know what, it's usually consistent,
Okay.
but I will caution, if you want those data points too, to kind of reflect, but traditionally, we've up and down maybe 100, you know, it all fluctuates, and that is dictated upon what other communities can do. So as they get busy and they require, you know, mutual aid, we just step up and we provide mutual aid to them. So again, it really reflects their data too,
Chief, what type of incidents are those?
everything. Those are
Is there a
everything.
majority of one type of incident?
I could break it down for you if you want. EMS, fire, any call for service that they needed a truck, whether it was a fire truck, ladder truck, or rescue from this town.
So it's throwing everything in the pot?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Correct.
This would be great to see on the trend.
And how far would you go, up to Burrable or?
Our mutual aid agreements will give us
Statewide.
statewide, yeah, I mean, we don't traditionally go statewide, but again, mass casualty incidents, like we unfortunately have seen in the last couple of months or 6 months or so, you know, we really help each other out.
Well, didn't we have 2 rescues in East Providence the other night?
We did, we had them at the hazmat, we did send all 3 to Brown.
I was just gonna say Brown and the.
Correct, all 3 of ours went,
the
so
Lynch
again,
probably.
it's, in the time of need, we all come together and we provide resources, and same thing for us. If unfortunately we had an event, that's what we rely mutually for them to help us out too.
So one of the things I see on this one, thinking about other towns supporting us, which is great, I love that the towns work together. I would be really interested to see a heat map of where the incidents are when another town needs to come to our mutual aid. So is there a particular area?
District you're talking?
Well, within Smithfield, like, is it happening in the northwest area of the town where we're underrepresented for our fire? Or
Sure, yeah, I can get that data for you.
because to me, that also talks about needing that 4th station, that also talks about where the biggest impact of that 4th
In
station.
the big thing too, I don't know, forgive me, I don't know if you have the Kramer report that was produced in 2016, you can get copies. But that showed the overlay. You know, the reason for that whole 4th station was because we couldn't provide quick firefighting activities to a fire that was up off of Route 7.
Right.
You know, and that protection of town, the same taxpayers that pay the same taxes as downtown Greenville, as Log Road, we have to afford the same opportunity to them, obviously in outlying areas.
Well,
And then meeting with that 4 to 8 minute response area of 1710,
well, and thinking about that, I mean, that report was, did you say 2016?
10 years ago.
I mean, so think about the development that we've had in town since then, and all of the additional residential units that are scattered around town.
Absolutely.
In your opinion, and I understand this is very high level, do you think that the development has changed the geography of where you need a station, or just reinforced it?
No, I think reinforcing our lack of coverage in a certain area. I'm not gonna say that the reason is because of a certain developments, but looking at those heat maps that I'll get you about the 4-station model, in that response area of 4 to 8 minutes of where we can touch each section of town, that's why they picked that over the 3-station model.
So you just gave me an idea. What I did see is 2 heat maps. One today, or whatever, 2025. I'd like to see you project it to when the new station is going to be there, assuming it's the same. That's a really good heat map, because that will tell you the response time if you forecast it, because you either look at the back data in the back window or the front window. You don't know what's going to happen, but you can project it based on, again, moving averages and other things. And just a quick comment about you guys, when we had the gas leaks, you guys were amazing. And I was part of that, because I was caught in that. Thankfully, I was in another building. But we opened the campus very quickly, and I appreciate it.
Well, and I would say from a business planning perspective, thinking about, I mean, you operate, again, it's a town municipal department, but from a business perspective, thinking about forecasting into the future, one of our town council members commissioned a report talking about all the developments that are coming into town or that are proposed. It would be really interesting to understand how that impacts your 4-station coverage. Because again, if we're going to do something, let's do it right. Let's do it where it needs to be for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years versus...
Well, so what, Ian, what exactly are you looking for?
Well,
All that's in the Kramer report, and the location was...
Well, the Kramer report talks about how we were in 2016.
Right.
It's not looking at how the town is currently structured or what's in the pipeline, like where the developments are looking to be.
How does that affect the station, I guess?
Well, if we put a 200-unit development in somewhere, that's going to potentially sway where you need...
We're building the fire station right now, so it's not going anywhere else.
Okay.
Well, that projected, but the point
But it took into consideration that whole
They
area.
did the radius,
Yeah.
Around that Route 7, 116 corridor.
Yeah, I guess
Was where it-
density.
Right, yeah, I guess,
Yeah.
I mean, you're right, I guess density, like, housing density doesn't matter, because it's about your ability to reach an area at a certain time.
Yeah, and that's what it's.
Correct. Yeah.
Just 2 points if I can, okay? Yeah, the town may get larger, and it does, some increase 2 or 3%. But again, in 2012 to 2026, the population increased less than 1,000 people. In the budget, there was 4 million, and now it's 13. So 12 years, our population only went up 900 people. So I know this was one of the discussions we had last year, like major developments, we need to manpower, they may not even go through. So we need to be careful with that.
Can I ask,
The last thing, one more point, if I can, we talked about maybe manning 4 stations now, but yet we're just talking a little while ago that we're gonna decrease
Well,
FTE by 6.
so
How can we do
it was
fourth
commented
station?
that the fourth station, I believe I heard, does not necessitate incremental headcount. The headcount for the fourth station is in the current staffing model.
Correct,
Thank you.
correct.
So, and that was one of the board's concerns, so
Correct.
that's a really important point to make.
it's the floaters is
Yeah.
what we're
Yeah.
talking about. And also the call volume, we drive our services based upon call volume, not on population.
I understand that, and that's why I'm comparing it to other towns.
Yeah.
It's not based on population, it's based on calls.
Well, the towns we should be compared to is Lincoln, Cumberland, and,
No,
no,
No, I have the data. If anybody read the report, I have the data. He's right.
Portsmouth
Hear
is
what I
always
said?
being,
He's right.
Portsmouth does hardly anything
Yeah,
compared to
Portsmouth
what
is
we
not
do.
close to our model.
It's not. Plus, I'm looking at the assessments too.
Well, we're very similar in this.
Right, in terms of business versus residential. And, you know, that doesn't talk about how many units and square foot and all that stuff. But it does lead to the point of the bigness of a warehouse or a manufacturing facility. And that's why I want to ask you about that a little bit later. But
Can I also add just one thing too? So when I mentioned 1710, the NFPA 1710 model about staffing, that's for single-family homes. We're mixed use here in town, a lot of commercial. Now that model, just like what the old Alexion was, that was referenced in the Kramer report because that was our biggest pharmaceutical manufacturing company at the time. That requires another level of firefighters. So again, we're stretched thin on commercial fires because the amount of square footage and what we need to combat those fires. However, our majority, we're aimed at our 99% of our calls are in single-family homes.
Any other questions on cumulative? All right, let's move forward. All right, yeah, I don't know if anyone has any comments on this one. I did a bunch of digging and had actually a great discussion with the town manager about how how the EMS billing is referenced and recognized. Most of it, for board recognition, most of it rolls into the town's general fund. No, some of it goes into the capital for the fire, but you said most of it goes to the town
Yeah,
to
so-
support.
The
It
EMS
does- it
bill
doesn't
has
get
its
the
own
fire-
account, right? Everything goes into the EMS billing account. I think we put $800,000 into the budget, so we took $800,000 out to go into this year's budget, and then a portion of that to pay for fire department capital, and there's still, whatever's left over is still in there, so it keeps building, and we proportion it out to pay everything off. So it's not necessarily a general funding, it's in its own account.
In the town managers, in the, whereabouts on the budget?
It'll show in your revenues.
And the revenue, let's state aid.
Correct.
Yeah, it just doesn't show on the Department 31 page. It's not, right.
So here's my question, because sometimes comments like that make me ask a question. I'd like to see what that fund has had for the last 5 or 6 years. I'm getting very concerned about the movement of money. I understand, I know accounting.
So Caitlin, one of the questions we'd like to see, we'd like to see the trending of that fund or that account over the
Yeah.
last year.
EMS billing? Yeah.
Just the ending year balance. that's all.
So just so you know, we cut back on how much we're using for the budget, because it was all being consumed for the budget, and it wasn't enough money to pay for the capital. The last 2 years, we changed that. That's not a way to run that account.
Any other questions on the EMS billing revenue? All right, let's move forward. The one question I had under the motor vehicle, approximately 3,500 to 7,000, is that each, like, is that on a per incident? It says which.
No,
I'm not sure
yeah,
what which.
No,
it-
that's a
it-
typo, I'm
yeah.
sorry. That is per year.
Okay.
And obviously on a slide scale, depending on the amount of incidents.
That I figured, I just didn't, just trying to figure out what which meant.
So the total motor vehicle accident billing is anywhere from 3,500 to
Correct, what we clear.
annually.
Correct,
So I didn't know this, we're charging the insurance company?
correct.
And then so that's another insurance company we're
Correct.
getting something back?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that.
Yeah, people do
I
it
like
for
it until you
hazmat,
pay
people
for
do it
it.
for
Right.
Cost you
FBAs.
about $900 if you get a bus ride.
Gotta come from somewhere.
All right, any questions on the sources of revenue? All right, the Kramer report,
I have a question.
go ahead.
Yeah, okay, so you think how to say this nicely. It's been a while. Would we agree? So I'm gonna ask you, I'd like you to answer this. Why haven't we done another one? It is a time.
Well, I
Because a
mean,
lot has happened
No.
since 2016, and we're making decisions on the budget
Uh,
that could be helped by this.
sure, Mr. Souza, I mean, again, when we did this, it kind of already showed that we were understaffed. It showed that we were, didn't have the right infrastructure, and it showed a lot of things that we were vulnerable to. I agree. Could it project us maybe into the future and model, future coverage? But again, following that roadmap 10 years ago and just getting up to it now is kind of, we spent $26,000 for this report, and we're now finally achieving it,
Right.
But I think it's time. 10 years is a long time. It is a long time. The town has changed a great deal in 10 years. I think it's time. I mean, we're gonna recommend a lot of cuts, but this is one I wouldn't argue about.
We haven't finished implementing the recommendations
Right.
from this report,
And I
so.
don't disagree, but I don't wanna wait too long either. If you wait too long,
So I think the
I've done a lot of
charge is-
these types of, Peter, I've done a lot of these types of reports. If you wait too long, you miss where you are as a benchmark. Let's assume it happens next year. You miss something, and then by the time you get there, it's too late to fix. You understand what I'm saying?
So what's the charter saying about that? Is the charter?
I don't think there is anything. It's not like the performance.
They're supposed to be reviewing the department audit process.
That's the performance.
That's different.
That's the performance audit.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
So
different.
it's- one point to add to this, in 2016, when this report was done, the fire budget was $5 million. So we did increase it from 2016 to now.
I think it's time.
Well, this was a roadmap to bring us to where we are, and quite frankly, if we keep all the personnel as we have right now, you won't need to hire anybody for the next 10, 15 years. Because it meets all the needs of the community.
That said it in the report too. It looks projected for the next 10 to 15 years in that report. What do we look like as a fire department in the town of Smithfield? Based upon projections, based upon, data of what they saw. Obviously not to, 100%, but give us a crystal ball.
But Chief,
Yes.
I hope you'll agree with me on this, is that you said, I heard you say that we finished, we're never finished. But we're at a place where we've implemented a lot of things.
Correct.
In the last 10 years.
Correct.
It's got a lot of discussion from this committee. I'm not suggesting we put it in the fiscal 27 budget. I'd be happy if we did, but I think it's time. I think it's time to prove it by an independent person. I think it's time to do that. And I'd like to challenge you guys to do that, probably in the next year, if you get a grant for this.
I was just gonna say, but what's the return on investment to the taxpayer?
To prove that we
That
did
that
make
report's
it.
gonna cost $50,000 now. So.
I don't disagree with you, Peter, but let's prove that we did do a good job. That's what I'm looking for. It's affirmation, Peter, that the money we have spent.
I think the professionals in their positions are affirmations.
Well, I
Yeah,
disagree.
we-
That's why we have
we
auditors.
disagree.
That's why we have
Disagree.
auditors, to do that.
Next slide, please. Were these executed on, the 24-hour coverage for ladder company, the next priority, and then the then rescue two?
Yes, 100% of this slide.
Thank you. I have no more questions on this one. Anyone else?
When did that
What was
occur?
the? what was
Oh,
the
yeah,
question,
good
Nancy?
question.
This was through the two SAFER grants. So the 2017 to 2023 SAFER grants allowed us to get that ladder company 24 hours a day, and then Rescue 2. Before that, to give you a little history, we cross-manned one of the rescues at Station 3 Log Road with the ladder truck. So the rescue might be transported to the hospital, like the chief said. We weren't able to get that ladder truck to a person in need. So again, that took that under consideration, that we needed 24-hour coverage, both for safety of the community and safety of the firefighters.
So,
And we dropped down to one rescue when they were on the ladder truck.
Correct. Then we would lose the rescue.
We have 3 rescues, are all of them 24 or just 2?
Yes, everybody in this town runs 24-hour shifts.
Okay.
365 days a year.
And this has been, for the last 3 years, that's been the staffing. Just about 3+ years.
And we have one ladder truck,
Correct.
what warrants the deployment of that truck?
Well,
Does
it's,
that go out on at regular runs all the time?
no, so it covers this district on EMS runs, so District 3. Okay, District 1, Engine 1, Rescue 1 takes care of. District 2 is Engine 2, Rescue 2. And the northern end of town is kind of split in geographical area between the tower ladder and Engine 2 on how they come together and respond based upon response times. So that's how that's set up.
I see it sometimes at Dave's Market, and I'm wondering why.
Gotta keep it
Yeah.
running. It's actually,
I
if it's
mean,
not running, it's deteriorating.
We gotta eat too, so.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying you don't,
Yeah.
that's an expensive machine.
Correct.
And I know you gotta exercise,
yeah.
I agree.
With it too comes muscle memory for the firefighters driving behind it. You know, we've hired some young firefighters, getting time on the road, that's their ability to get, you know, the pavement and maneuver that truck so we're not incurring costs for maintenance when they're hitting things by not exercising it. Again, I hear you loud and clear about companies not being in quarters, you know, for training, for things like that. Again, they're very professional, men and women in this department. They're not abusing any power. They're not driving things where they shouldn't be. And again, we don't know where the next call is going to come. You could say, hey, I went to Station 2, but you weren't there, but they were closer to a call maybe up at Bryant, or closer to a call at Navigant. So again, you know, we try and be in the public too. We're public servants. You know, we serve you, we serve this community, you know,
You
so.
do a fine job too.
And I appreciate that, you know, and little kids coming up at Dave's, and we're handing out plastic helmets to them, you know, putting a smile on their face, I mean, that's a home run in my.
You should do touch of the truck, Deerfield. You've
Right.
done that before.
Yeah, yep,
so a question,
sure.
I disagree with my colleagues. This slide is a perfect example to redo the study, because I'm gonna tell you, sorry, I'm a researcher, that bottom right doesn't tell me anything. It's a platitude. Platitude without data is a platitude. So, and I'm looking at commercial. Okay, I'm looking at it right on my screen. So I'm trying to actually create a situation where you can justify more. They'll kill me probably. But if we have more businesses, square feet, however you want to define it, square cubic meter, that needs to get done. So I'm going to disagree with everybody around this table. That's why this needs to get done. How has the footprint changed? However they looked at it. But I'd like to see, how do they come up with that more businesses equals more demand? It's just words, it's not data.
Sure.
Okay, is that fair?
Sure, fair.
All right, let's move to the next slide, please. Any questions?
I'm not sure if it's per this slide or not, but we have 4 shifts instead of 3?
Correct.
And what's the rationale behind 4 shifts? And are those 6-hour shifts, or
So,
how does that work?
no, so we work 24-hour shifts,
Mm-hmm.
okay, 4 platoon system. The 3 platoon work week versus 4 platoon work week. The math is straightforward and unavoidable under Code of Rhode Island law. A 3 platoon 56-hour system means every firefighter works 14 hours per week above the 42-hour threshold, all of which must be paid at a time-and-a-half rate. That is not a cost-saving strategy. It is a legally mandated overtime generator. Every Rhode Island municipality that tried, it either paid millions in settlements, reverse course, or both. The 4 platoon 42-hour model with a properly sized manpower pool is demonstrably the more cost-effective structure, and the Rhode Island General Assembly agreed when it passed General Law 28-12-4.1 in 2019.
I think you're ready for this question.
What gave me the questions?
I know.
Yeah.
But do most towns do four
No,
shifts?
4 shifts, correct,
They do,
correct.
okay.
City of Providence, 4 shifts. They were at 56-hour work weeks, 3 shifts. Found out that it was millions of dollars that they had to pay out in overtime, and they went to with a 4-hour.
Yeah, but that's a whole nother question with overtime, because our overtime is at 600,000 right now, and it's only budgeted for so much less. It was budgeted for 125. And the funny thing that I don't understand is that on 3/26, March 26th, the overtime was 450,000. 5 days later, it jumped to 130,000,
No way.
according to the printout I got.
This,
So unless the printout was just, maybe had some
I'll
backlog
tell you
information.
exactly what it was. I sat down with Peter during our conversation. My
notes-
budget line item wasn't even up to 580.
My notes said on 410, he expended 479,000.
I got one printed 331.
But Keelan, can you pull that up right now?
So
But
related
here's my
to this,
question
though,
too, a follow-up question with this. We have floaters, and there's 2 floaters per shift.
Correct.
So how many people, are we manning 72 people per day?
No, no,
How many?
72 per day. 16 on a shift, 16 plus 2.
24 hours.
No, 18, if we were full staff,
Yes.
100%, nobody out injured, nobody left,
Yeah.
no vacancies, we'd be at 18 per shift,
Minus the floaters, how many do we have?
16,
Okay. And then,
That's a 24-hour shift.
24-hour shifts.
So that'd be like platoon A, and then they'll go off shift, platoon B will come in.
They work
and take
8
that
a.m.
next
to 8
24
a.m.
hours. I had to have this explained to me as well. I'm not-
yeah, I was just confused on the floaters with the 4 shifts and how many per day. So,
I can put you to the slide if you want to take a look at it.
and while you're working your way there, 'cause this ties into your overtime question.
yes,
So on the budget submission form, there's 7 new hires flagged, not counting the MIH.
Correct.
Now, are those positions that have been previously staffed?
Yes.
So there
That
are
was
positions that people have left out of.
Poor wording,
Mhm.
poor wording. Those aren't new employees.
Right.
Those are vacancies.
Yep.
We should have, you know what, next year, I'm gonna put that in that schedule. I hope I'm still here, chief, but yeah, we're gonna change that to reflect it, because that definitely threw people off.
yeah, I have the printout here on 331, and the sick leave was 324,000, was budgeted for 200, we still got 3 months left.
Yep.
And the overtime is $580,257, it was budgeted for 125, and the overtime continues to go up.
Mr. Conti, can I just add to that?
You want to explain
That,
from what-
that sick line item,
Mhm.
I had people retire. Their amount of accumulated sick time,
Yes.
when they left, had to get
They get
taken out of that
reimbursed
line item.
Okay.
We didn't know that they were leaving.
Mhm.
I have 14 people over the 20-year mark that can leave tomorrow. I have the accumulated sick time. I prepped like no tomorrow.
Is this harder than
we appreciate that, by the
Is
way.
this harder than firefighter training?
Yeah, it is.
Now, Chris, what I want to point out, overtime on its own isn't a bad thing when it's caused by vacancies.
And
So,
they chronically
Right.
underfunded that line item like every year, like they make it
Well, they
125.
do, and then it shows up at the end that
Yeah, I'm not saying it's right, but
it's
we
not
chronically.
right.
Right.
I mean, overtime for a
Even though
business is
we're
a
putting
really
$13 million
valuable
budget in,
tool.
it might be 14 million
Yes.
with the overtime. So
Yeah.
those are things we need to think
So
about.
I think we're
And
making progress though.
the
because it's been a
floaters are
billion and
supposed
now it's
to be-
364.
I've been, and I was telling Peter in our conversation,
700, so.
with my management rights, I have been moving those floaters into those vacant positions, moving across shifts
Mhm.
that they're not even assigned to make sure that overtime budget remains manageable. I'm a taxpayer, like I said in my introduction.
I agree.
I'm trying to do everything I can within my power,
Yeah.
within the firefighters collective bargaining agreement, to not create a grievance, and to make sure that we remain safe here, and we operate as the chief of department to make sure the men and women go home safely.
That's
So
your biggest,
again,
that's your biggest challenge.
yeah,
It really is, managing
100%.
people.
yeah,
The
absolutely.
police chief did the same thing last year.
The
He said,
toughest thing I could do is manage people,
yeah, I know.
you know, but again, that's why we're here.
I mean, Chris, the big analysis would be, is, like, what's that overtime once you back out the fully loaded cost of each of those 7 open roles?
And here's the other thing,
And what is that year over year versus having those roles staffed?
There should be 7 open roles if we had safety grounds and employees in there.
No, but here's the thing, right? There's another component that I can bring to the table here. Mr. Conti,
Yes, sir.
I can't get one person in the Municipal Fire Academy until August 2026. We occurred these vacancies leading up to it. If I could have put somebody in the seat and got them trained, I would have sent them to the Municipal Academy. It's just our hands are tied. We can't, we're in our current recruitment state.
So let me help you a little bit, all right? I'm an union, I have no choice. You know what I'd like to see at some point? Put this to bed. You know how we could potentially put it to bed? Can we look at other communities, Lincoln and so on, and see what they're doing? I talk about best practices all the time,
Yeah.
okay? I'd like to see from you, not tomorrow, not next month, not next year, I want it next year. But wouldn't that be a good thing to either take this argument and move it forward, or say, we're doing the best we can? I want to solve this problem, because I'm tired of talking about it. And I'm not tired of talking about it because it's not an important thing, because I've been talking about this for years. But I want to see what other communities are doing. And I want to see what Lincoln's doing. I'm looking at population, I'm looking at this stuff. That's what I want to see. And dig down a little deeper to say how you manage it. Just not numbers, but on the opposite, one words. Because best practices matter. Everywhere.
So in Lincoln, they only have EMS.
Right, no, I know, we have to go, no, I understand, but
So-
that's what he has to figure out.
I spoke to a neighboring community fire chief today, and we both ironically have budget meetings tonight. And we're just talking, one of my mentors in my career, and I asked, I said, hey, how do you manage your overtime budget? Same thing, in the red, smaller department size than us, 31 firefighters. It's an uphill battle. We understand it. Again, that's why I left it blank when I went for my submittals to the town manager and the finance director about what you just said. Numbers guy to myself. 1 point something million, 800,000. Why are we funding 125 to now 200? And again, they have a plan, and that's their plan to figure out that cost in that line item. One thing is, if we're not, as you know, you're all money people, as we don't pay out the wages, we're putting it on the overtime line item. So it kind of offsets it a little bit. So no wages for those 7, that can get bounced back into that overtime. And again, like Peter had, responded to the questions, we're making a concerted effort into minimizing that.
One comment about the previous slide is we're using 2017 data, or am I just,
Where are you?
I'm on the ISO, the previous, right there. I didn't know we were forward. We're just using, either it's Bob's quote or something, I'm not sure.
No, that's Chief Seltz's quote
I get
during his submittal in 2017 of why he reached out to FEMA asking for safer grant.
I thought the purpose of the safer grants too was to reduce the overtime.
Well, it's actually to meet NFPA 1710,
Right, the 17.
the career department staffing model, which is set at 17 for an aerial device operating. That's the minimum.
How does that compare with your present contract with the minimum? Is it the
So-
same?
Yep, so minimum manning, the 13-person figure in the collective bargaining agreement is a labor protection flaw. It defines a threshold below which management cannot reduce staffing without union consent. It was never intended to serve as an operational staffing target. The fire service equivalent would be asking a hospital staff its ER based on the minimum nurse-to-patient ratio required to avoid a labor grievance, rather than the ratio required to deliver safe patient care. The department's operational staffing of 16 is driven by response data, incident complexity, and NFPA 1710 benchmarks, all of which are the chief's professional responsibility to maintain.
Why did you memorize that?
This is the question that was asked.
No.
You know how much
Like,
I have
something
to
little
try and
bit.
memorize?
So I would think that the contract would be satisfactory because most union contracts look out for their employees. The union's contracts, and being a union, this country, New England,
Mhm.
built unions for mill workers.
Right.
And you can read all about it. They are to protect you. So I would think that in the contract,
Like
the
the
union
chief's,
contract, it would have been satisfactory.
like the chief
Now,
said.
you can bring it to different levels as you want,
Mhm.
everyone has an opinion on that, but I would think your union contract is satisfactory.
Over the years, during contract negotiations, we've been able to secure that picture of this minimum manning of what 1710 stand says incrementally. Can't happen overnight. The other thing too is that, we're in contract negotiations right now. And, I can't stand here and say, because of the unfair labor practice, by saying other things. But again, it's being addressed, we're looking at it, and, yeah.
Can you just clarify one more thing? You have 3 stations.
Correct.
Just tell me how many, without the floaters, how many are working that? 15 per shift, 4 shifts, would that be 60 people?
No, so we operate
I want to get straight.
without floaters, 16 on shift. We have 3 firefighters on each engine. Here, let me go to the slide.
Okay. I just need that number because I was trying to do the math and I want to be clear on it.
Without the floaters, that total on shift, 18 minus 2 would put you at 16. We have 3 firefighters both on engines 1 and 2. We have 2 firefighters on rescues 1, 2, and 3. We have 3 firefighters on towel ladder 1, and 1 safety chief that's incident commands around the clock.
So total on shift,
16 minus
16.
the floaters. Yep,
4 shifts?
4 shifts.
Okay.
1 shift per day.
1 shift per day. 16 per day.
Very good.
I
I'm a math teacher, you think I would understand that?
I do have a question for Caitlin. On the expenditure detail packet that we have, for the salaries and wages, does that include the backfills, the new hire lines, or are those separate?
So no, so where that probationary private,
Yes.
so that includes who we want to hire.
Okay, so those are included.
It's forecasted, correct,
Okay, thank you.
with forecasted healthcare, pension, all fringe benefits.
Ian, point of clarification, what slide are we on? Because we moved.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
All right, so we were back several slides, because we were back in we were still, yeah, we were here.
But
And then we jumped a bunch forward for some questions. So let's move a slide forward, because we answered some questions there, because this is where we were.
Yep.
Any other questions on the ISO rating? Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is about staffing levels, and we've hit this pretty solid at this point. All right, next slide. All right, we're going to move a few slides. Okay, stop on this one for a second. Community at a glance.
That's where I want to
Okay.
ask some questions. I don't want to push it forward, though, Ian. So I guess, because I'm a numbers guy, North Kingston is not the right comparison. And I can look at it on the screen and tell you why. Okay? Population is different. Okay? I'm sorry, I'm looking at assessments. They are double us in assessments for residential. They are at least 20% more than us in commercial and industrial. I'm not looking at tangible. We are ranked 10, they are ranked 7.
So let's ask, who is, well, I think the reason he linked North Kingston is because he was asked the question on it. So you have a proposal, what's your proposal to
My
get
proposal,
national
well,
data?
can you let me finish? Because it's not just on assessment, it's on population, all right? Because population is a whole lot different. And you're comparing 27 to 22, us 22 and them 27. And just for a marker, it's 2020, which is what I got from the Auditor General's office in my report. So use the ones from my report. If anybody in this room read my report, there are 8 peer groups on population. That's what we should at least looking at. Now again, I looked at population in my report. You can go to assessments. I don't really care because it's juggling a ball in the air. But the population group is not the same as what I did from the AG's office. I think it's a better, because if it was good enough, nobody said a word, so I have to believe I was right. Those other 8 communities were in the middle. I picked 4 above and 4 below in population, although I took Central Falls out because of a stupid reason, because of the education system. And then I just put another person. That's what I would suggest.
So I guess the question is, where did you get your Smithfield population number from?
Yeah, so that was based upon 2020 data too, that I grabbed.
It's
From the
20,
census?
well, it's 20 to 118, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
I should have.
No, it's okay, it's okay.
Okay.
I just don't think it's, because you're also comparing 54 to 73.
Yeah.
You understand where I'm
Yeah,
going?
it can look skewed, I agree.
And I'll give you this, if you can find out what the call numbers are
Yeah.
for the other ones,
Mhm.
I don't care if you use that one, chief.
Yep.
All I'm suggesting is find peer communities.
Sure.
That's all
But
I'm suggesting.
I also agree with Ian, I think it was, the reason that North Kingston is in this, in your data is.
It was because I was asked the question.
It was,
Yeah, I
that
know.
was your question, so.
Just make it clear, Ken, I brought up North Kingston and Portsmouth because one, North Kingston has the same budget as we do in order to compare their population, their land mass, and their calls. The other thing was Portsmouth, because Portsmouth has the same population, same land mass, and they are so much less than us in their.
Here's the problem with population, because, Portsmouth, sorry. Here's the problem with Portsmouth, and you can tell me, they have a hell of a lot less business, they have a hell of a lot less traffic,
Correct.
and they don't have a college. Sorry, I shouldn't be saying that, but
Their customers are different than us.
the makeup of that town, that's why I'm saying, Chris, if you listen, I'm trying to take a good skew, not skew is a bad word, a good picture.
One thing that we can do that kind of models towards North Kingston is even the highway traffic. 295 versus Route 1, Route 4, I mean, you know, stuff like that.
Who travels 114?
Yeah, but,
That's my.
but I live on East Main Road and West Main Road, those aren't safe roads at all.
Sure.
Do you have a municipality we should be looking at to
I
compare?
just said it, the 4 above and 4 below. I mean, I can look real quick.
Okay, can you say it again so I can hear it?
4 above and 4 below is, get back here. It is Tiverton, Middletown, Barrington, Portsmouth is in there because, again, different, a little different with you. Then it's Bristol, Lincoln, Newport, and Westerly. But again, I'm looking at different things, so I'm suggesting just pick a number that you're going, I looked at population, that's all.
Okay,
Just
so, can you
Tiverton,
say they at Tiverton,
Tiverton,
Middletown?
Middletown, Barrington, Portsmouth, this is in the report. Bristol, there on the bottom, Bristol, Lincoln, Newport, and Westerly.
And it would be good to know what their ranking is, and what their staffing is, and their calls. So those are the three pivotal points that we should be looking at.
But I'm going to say one more time,
One more.
I don't think it's population. I use population, okay, because I'm doing basic fiscal stuff. I think it's actually a combination of commercial assessment and residential assessment. I think that would be a better way to do it, for you, unless you can get calls.
Yeah, I can get the call.
I don't think population is good for this one, Peter. I don't think it is.
Disagree with you.
So I was looking at the North Kingston
Newport,
budget proposal, and it's right here. Now, it's everything together, it's calls for service, it's between 38,000 and 42,000, but that's everything, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, that's not, I spoke directly to the fire chief in North Kingston, and that's when he gave me that number.
All right, no, I believe you, I think it includes like police, everything, that's why.
Oh.
Maybe DPW, yeah, I don't know. That's a lot.
It could be dog calls too.
Yeah, so I didn't know.
Right.
Is that?
I don't know.
You're very close.
That's probably, the dispatch center does the whole stuff.
Yeah.
All right, let's, are we good to move forward a slide?
Yeah.
All right, let's jump forward. Any questions on the staffing, more staffing questions? All right, next slide. All right, I don't have any questions on this
Well,
one.
I do have a question on staffing, and here's one of the questions I have. We have so many, and I guess, and I like promotions, but we have 33 positions that are above lieutenant of the 46 firefighters. We have 46 firefighters, 33 above lieutenant, and I was looking at some other towns, and they have like 19 above lieutenant and 24 firefighters. So
But
why is there so many, and I know they all have a specific job, and we've done this with the police department too, but it just seems so top-heavy, and 46 firefighters and 33 that have a higher rank than.
can I ask you what you're comparing them to? Like you're saying that we're higher end officership versus X amount,
Well,
what's
for
my other
almost every-
variable?
I'm saying with almost for every firefighter, you have.
So for every fire truck in every rescue unit, we have one officer in charge of the truck
Okay.
for liability reasons, somebody in
Right.
charge, for safety.
So what would those be, captains, lieutenants?
It depends, so we only have one captain.
I'm just trying to understand their role.
Yep,
1, 3 on every piece of that.
correct, so we have one officer, whether it's a captain or lieutenant. There's only one captain of engine 1, there's only one, and then 3 lieutenants on that 4-shift model. Then engine 2, one captain on one shift, 3 lieutenants on a different shift with their manpower. Tower ladder 1 captain on one of the shifts, 3 lieutenants on the other 3 shifts. Same thing with rescues 1, 2, and 3. We have one in charge person in one platoon that is in charge of the overall truck. Tracks maintenance, tracks equipment damaged, anything. They're the person in charge of that vehicle. And then they disperse it amongst their subordinates on tasks that need to be done for that vehicle.
So let me help maybe with Chris a little bit. By the way, quick question, when is the contract expire? Just in that obviously.
Right, so,
June 30th?
yeah,
Okay, so it's coming up. So obviously, I know you can't talk about it, I understand those rules, but you might have to come in at the 11th and 0.75 hour, depending on whether your preliminary numbers, and I know it's another account to do that. But do you, in the union contract currently, is there a required number of, at each level?
yes.
Okay, I
Yeah,
think
so that's covered under the minimum manning section.
No, at level, I meant like.
Yes,
The title.
it will say
Okay,
two firefighters and one firefighter, 2 firefighters and 1 officer must staff X vehicle. It doesn't dictate a captain or lieutenant. Those positions for captains and lieutenants are like fire prevention. There's a fire marshal for the town, he's a captain. There's lieutenants under that, inspector. So again,
They have different roles.
they have different roles.
so you don't have more
And that's-
lieutenants than required of the contract?
No.
No.
Okay, that's what I
no,
think what he's
No
saying.
more lieutenants, no more captains,
Because we
no more
don't have
deputy
those.
chiefs of what we have currently needed.
So we have 8 captains on fire.
Mhm.
So we don't have any more or less more
No,
than the contract?
No.
Okay.
no.
And that's I don't want to talk about it because that's a CBA thing, that's I think we should talk about that stuff. Beyond that, we'll just.
Next slide, please. I think we're good here. Next.
I should just memorize that slide. He memorized the CBA.
I mean, this is one of the first slides that talks to headquarters staff versus dispatchers, MIH. Any questions as we break apart the different groupings? All right, next slide, please. Talking about the vacancies and reasons thereof. So we know there are 7 vacancies plus 1 for the MIH. Any questions on any of those?
Quick one, and I apologize for this because I was writing it down quickly. You said, I have the word us of X months. Do you remember what you said? If you don't worry about it. I have an underlying meaning. I didn't get the number of months. I wasn't sure.
Was I talking about the 7 months that I've been here?
Well, yes,
Yeah,
I'll just say
yeah,
yes.
so over the past 7 months, yeah.
All right, that's fine. So what do you think? I mean, this is a great slide.
Mhm.
Where do you think we could?
I hope it's not
this
me.
new chief?
I hope it's
just
not
gonna
me.
say the same thing.
Yeah, I beat you to it.
I don't know if
You're all
I was
thinking
thinking.
it. Yeah, yeah.
I'll tell you offline.
It's generational.
But
Okay,
I'm looking at you being the new leader.
Mhm.
What do you think?
I think it's okay. I think it's okay. I think, firefighters' careers, that's a personal decision on when they hang up their helmet. Unfortunately, I came in at a time that they were ready to do it under my command, my watch. They may say different, but no, all kidding aside, again, we're just trying to do the best and lead our manpower,
You obviously don't have mandatory retirements, that probably be illegal.
Yeah.
Unless they don't pass a physical, maybe that's the only.
No. And again, these were members with 30 years of service that just chose to separate and go their own way and enjoy life. So again, healthy, exactly.
Totally agree with you.
All right, let's move forward. Overtime. One thing I'll say again for the board's sake, overtime is not inherently bad. It's a great tool for organizations and businesses to use to help control staffing levels and to fill in when there are gaps in staffing, as long as it's in a controlled manner. And one of the things I would look to on this is, in the 7 open vacancies that we have, is the overtime utilization in excess of having staffed those positions? And it looks reasonable from the numbers I've looked at, but
But the 7 vacancies were filled by safer grants.
no,
The-
not
The
necessarily.
number's still the same, 84 last year, 84 this year. So we're saying we're having 7 vacancies, but the numbers aren't changing from last year to this year.
So, but, okay, you're making a little different of a point in that we're losing SAFER funding, but retaining the head count that the SAFER grant was funding. So and that's a valid topic to address, and I
Yes.
think we do need to address that.
Because there are some towns that don't even look at safer grants, because they know it's gonna cause a problem down the road.
Well,
The other thing, yes,
Which
North Kingston doesn't
also-
have any safer grants at all. Look through that.
I know they did,
What?
but several departments over the years in Rhode Island
I'm not
have
saying
had
it's a bad
safer
thing.
grants.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing, though.
But
What
I'm
I'm saying what
saying
happens is.
they've kept the personnel after that.
Exactly, that's what they do. And they find need for them, and there is probably need for them as well. But the other thing about overtime that you mentioned is it's not a bad thing, Ian, if you're at a level of staffing that's adequate, but if you're overstaffed and it goes up,
That's a different
a
story.
double-edged sword, and that's what's causing some of these budgets to go higher.
And I know it was in an earlier slide, how many heads were staffed from the SAFER grant?
We had 13 for the first and 12 for the second.
I thought it was 8.
I got a list from last year.
The 2023 state,
I thought it was 8 times 8, because I always remember the 8 times 8.
Well, no, I can't remember.
8 sounds familiar to me,
You
but
said about.
Did you offset it, Chief?
It's okay, I mean,
It's-
I'm sorry, let me go back, my bad.
oh, okay, go back there. Ian, I agree with you. Except in one. You've got, and Joe, I wish you would speak up on this, because you're the one that did the analysis, all right? Because I don't remember as well as you probably do. Manufacturing companies do this all the time. They have a rise in production. So instead of going to hire somebody, because you've got to take the 0.5, here's the key, the 0.5, and leverage it against medical benefits. Okay, because that's what you're really doing. Okay, I've done the model many times with clients. You do it when it's a short thing. You're making more chocolates at Christmas time or whatever. But it can't be a sustainable thing. And that's the reason why I keep asking the question. I appreciate, I've said it, Bob knows this, I want to keep these men and women safe. I don't want them to be mentally whatever and physically step in the wrong place and all that because they're tired. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that because you all are very physical jobs. But we've got to talk about, I wish Joe, 0.5 versus the medical benefits. Because our medical benefits, we all know this, they're not going to stop at where they are next year. It's probably going to be worse in Rhode Island. That's what we're going to do. It's a break even. Correct, Joe? There's a break even.
That's what I was gonna say. It seems like we're trending down, so it seems like we're going in the right
That's
direction.
And that's the analysis I want to see, because I want to support you guys to do what you have to do. I just need to see that, so that I know that we're not overspending, and that we were hopefully going to start moving it down to a place where we can manage it. But of course, when people leave or retire, you got to fill in. And the police department does the same thing. Now, they don't have minimum staffing as you do. That's the big difference, and I get it. But they are in charge of keeping us safe as well.
Sure.
And I want to make sure both sides are keeping us safe.
Sure.
So what would be a good idea is if we looked at our manpower 3 or 4 years ago, when we had less than 84, somewhere around 70, what was the overtime then? So we should compare that overtime with the staffing for the last 5 years. Because I'm not just looking at last year, because that's what the chief said. He said, I used this budget based on last year. But we have to go further than that. We need to go 4 or 5 years back. Look at the calls, look at the personnel. And by God, for every personnel, there's an expense to that. So, that's something to keep in mind, not just last year's budget, the last 5. And when they go back 10 years, it's a whole different story. You're under $7 million. So we're not going back that far, at least 5 years.
So I'd like to ask you,
I've got some data. Overtime in fiscal year 23-24, that expenditure was 1.2 million. 24-25 expenditure was 985,337, and then, so,
And what were the number of people on the department?
right, so, again, I'm just telling you what the number was, I'd have to get you those.
Yeah,
manpower
I'm trying to make a
numbers.
correlation between staffing and overtime.
Sure,
We were kind of hoping that by putting more on staff, that would kind of drive it down. But I have a different question. I want you to look to the future. You know, so my question here on the green part, I know you made it green, or at least the top part. Is it working? That's what I'd like to hear from you. 7 months, you're enough. You've been there enough. You know where the bathroom is and all this stuff. Is it working? Where are you right now?
He's getting his feet wet.
yeah, regarding
We're getting the right-hand side. In other
the
words,
right-hand side.
You've put
So,
together.
I see what you're saying, yeah, right, so I'm actually still in it. Right now, because our application period is still open till the end of April, I don't have any data to say that. I had to extend our application period because EMTs, like I said earlier, cannot work on an ALS rescue, so per CBA, that doesn't help me out. If nobody's aspiring to be a firefighter at the cardiac level, then I had to extend and open up the applications even longer, trying to get lateral transfers, more of them. Passed the physical fitness assessment by the Rhode Island Fire Chiefs, which was, the last one is at the end of this month. So I'm working towards that. We're currently getting the data for the cardiac certification. At the end of the day, if I don't get the numbers of cardiacs of what I need to hire to fill these vacancies, we're gonna do it in-house. We're gonna get creative. We're gonna run our own cardiac program. We have our own instructors, our own equipment. We'd be foolish not to, you know. And then that could be ahead of the firefighting academy when they go down to Exeter for 13 weeks and they get the firefighting aspect. Look, I don't envy the new people that came on with basics. I remember being a 19-year-old kid getting hired in the fire service, but I had my cardiac. I can just imagine the stress that they're under to do a 13-week academy at the fire academy, come back, do 10 weeks here, learn a job, get pushed out to one of the companies for on-the-job training, learn the community, and get their cardiac license. I think it's unfair. I think it's a lot of stress to put on that. So if there's anything that we can do to facilitate that, to get them on board quicker, and save money by credential them, and then they come out of the academy, I can push them right to a truck.
You probably should have targeted my question more to the yellow one. Is that work? Because the other two, I guess,
Yeah,
what do you think? Where are you on the yellow one, the floater first?
I think proof's in the numbers. I think by using those floaters, we are offsetting those vacancies. I can only imagine if I didn't have 2 floaters to put into those vacancies, what our overtime budget would be. That's the first step. That means starting with 3 people would have to be out on shift. That would have to be covered by overtime. It's very real. You know, we're not.
And I applaud you for thinking out of the box. That's your last thing there. But it would be nice to, and we're talking about hours that you may not be able to audit, for the lack of a better term, but it would be nice to see that someday. Because that's how, when I teach to say, when we're doing a strategy, I want to see whether the strategy worked or not, or whether we have to retool. And it would be nice to see what you just said, because I'd like to give you credit. If that's working, then keep doing it.
Sure. Yeah.
So maybe we should budget with more on the proposed budget, because it's never leaving its target. So it's throwing the numbers off.
We could.
You know, 125 doesn't sound reasonable. Which 300, 400, 500 seems to be the number. Well, I mean, that's what it's at.
But I want to see an analysis before I ever go start going moving that much.
I mean, like I said, it takes almost a year and a half to really understand your job, and you're halfway there, and you're really focusing on a lot of ideas, and I appreciate that. Well, just let me ask you one more question, not one more, but being new and you're looking at all different aspects of your department, if you had to save money somewhere, 5 or 10%, what areas would you look at?
Yeah. I actually have that written down.
I know you did. I asked the question. All my questions are locked down.
I anticipate the question.
Per page, what do you think it would be?
Yeah. Let me get that information for you. But yeah, so again, I had some capital asks that came into this fiscal year's budget, right?
Right.
Things that were on that want list, not a necessity. It wasn't a primary focus of mine, but it was like, hey, listen, if we have money, what can we do for X, Y, and Z?
Right.
And what we cut out was some roof repairs. I had to, again, think creatively.
Yeah, these are structures they're talking about.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I go, for stations 1 and 3, we had a couple of leaks. I had to go out and find quotes, bid on the project, and, make sure that instead of spending capital money for things that I didn't know, let's identify the problem. What is going wrong? I'm not a roofer. So again, by that, we were able to save $20,000 out of the capital budget by cutting that. I don't need the money. We saved $65,000 from removing our vehicle repeater systems from our reserve apparatus. Technically, I only need them for frontline apparatus. The amount of time that I would need a backup truck to have that, is minimal. So that saves $65,000. Should I have it? Yeah, it'd be nice to have, excuse me, nice to have it, but again, hose and appliances, I had to cut $20,000 in savings on that. Think about maybe an extra year or two of hoses of longevity that we get. Again, cutting some wants.
Right.
PPE was cut from $60,000 to $30,000. Turnout gear for the firefighters. I'll tell you right now, it's between $5,500 and $6,000 to outfit firefighters with turnout gear, helmet, flashlight, everything that they need to do our job.
I think it's almost $2,000 per FTE with the equipment and things of that sort. More than 2,000?
Way more. Way more.
I
$5,500.
when I did the math, it came out to 2,000 per
No,
person.
our basic set of gear for a firefighter.
Oh, I think that's just uniform cleaning, I'm sorry.
Correct,
I'm
correct,
sorry.
totally separate.
Uniform cleaning is 2,000.
No, uniform cleaning is not 2,000. Nobody on this
If you
fire.
put the two together.
Oh, if you took your uniform allowance and the maintenance?
Yes.
Yes, then that gets you to the $2,000.
That's nice to have, I mean, it's a
Well,
nice benefit.
Yeah, and again,
And
that's
that-
part of.
but that's part of the bargaining
That's part of the bargaining agreement. I
So-
mean,
You know what I'm saying?
that's also to keep your dress uniform clean. That's also to launder your stuff, to buy new,
Yeah.
you get one spot of oil, we're gonna look like, to the taxpayers.
You're right,
I
Bob, it's
mean,
the combined
Yeah,
allowance
if we
and-
combine the two,
Yeah.
That's exactly what, yep. So again, savings, cutting down that PPE, that turnout gear for each firefighter. I got it creatively, over the past 7 months, I've repurposed brand new gear. People that left, I spent X amount of dollars to retailer it to the new firefighter, so it's not sitting on a shelf. Just trying to think outside the box and things like
Yeah,
that.
that's a good thing to do, and that's what, a good manager would do, and I wish there was some sort of merit for those who could save 2 or 3% from last year's budget to this year's budget, and they should be rewarded with that merit, but, because that's a tough job, and you're pulling all the strings.
Yeah.
And it seems like the biggest expense, though, is the salaries, and you really can't control that, because that's part of our. So we need to look in other areas to bring this budget, or maintain a budget, or level fund it somehow, right, because you can't increase the salaries.
Mr. Conti, I also think it's a double-edged sword,
Mhm.
right? If we're not attracting firefighters, prospective firefighters to come on this job, and they leave for other, jurisdictions, what is it good to us? We have to make it lucrative enough to, one, sustain life with inflation, and then to, put a price tag on the job itself. And let's face it, this generation is different than past generations, so
I
again.
remember when the town had a volunteer.
I had somebody walk in my office a couple months ago and say, this job wasn't for me. 8 months into the job.
Right.
And it's okay. Listen,
Not for everybody.
that's right, it's not for everybody, and we understand that.
I've seen
That-
teachers do that too.
Yeah, and I get it, but again, so that sort of lack, when I got hired in '02 here in Smithfield, we had 400 to 500 people of applicants. Right now,
Mhm.
I'm mid-30s. It's just the way the law of the land.
But help us, because there's gonna be several things I'm gonna go mill on.
Mhm.
We'll see in the next couple of weeks. Show us the salary surveys. We use salary surveys
Sure.
all the time.
Yep.
My previous job, all the time. So that's what we need. I just don't like this without, I don't wanna get into evaluations, because this committee shouldn't be doing that on individual people. But the point is, we need some justification, especially when we add new labor. Okay, that's the issue. And we just need some justification, because once you put labor on, we all know around the table, once you put labor on, it's there, it's institutionalized. We need to understand that. This is, I said it before, a week ago, this is gonna be the toughest budget, next year's gonna be tougher. Promise, I can see it already. And so we just gotta figure this out.
Because in the private world, and I work for 2 startup companies, private world, they're not making money, they have to lay people off. Again, being non-union. So one person has to do twice the amount of work. You have a different situation, that you have the collective bargaining rights, but you do have a say on how many people can come on board. And like you said, once they become permanent, they become a fixture after 2 or 3 years. And that stays for the next 25 or 30 years when they retire. So, you know, the staffing is so critical. And I know we want to have a safe town, and we talked about that as well.
I wanna keep you safe. I wanna keep them safe.
Absolutely.
Let's move the slides forward.
There's probably only one, I just saw this and heard this, I'll do it quickly. In Philly, I just had a person from the Merchant Marine, and they're part of DOD, Peter probably would know this. The ones that are out to sea for like 30 or 40 days, the suicide rate is, I almost cried in that presentation, and that's how bad it is. And these are 17-year-olds who are 18-year-olds, that are committing suicide, jumping off the boat.
Merchant Marines?
Merchant Marines. That other.
Yeah, that's DOT.
Yeah, DOT.
Okay.
So, and this actually ties in where you pick the flag for compensation reflects risk. And we were talking about their salary survey, but kind of the question, how do we align with comparable districts for our pay rates, which is?
Yeah, I think exactly what
Yeah.
Mr. Souza said, you know, comparables is what we get at.
All right, anyone have any questions? Flip through a couple here, looking forward, backward, sideways, up and down on this slide.
And I truly mean number 4. You know, it's a living document.
Yeah.
Conversations, good conversations at the table amongst us, not just today, but future, throughout the year. When we come into budget season, we should probably have 90% of this already nailed down, you know, through, you know, collaboration. You know, I'm a communicator, so, you know, my door's open, you know. Talking about this amongst other factions is a good thing.
But I also hope you come back to us if there is a revelation that you don't get today.
Sure.
And just, I mean, we still got a little bit of time, not a lot of time, but we got a little
Any
bit of
call
time.
on that, you can communicate through Joe.
We'll do.
I mean, that number 1 column is very important because you look at prior year, you need to go back a little further, and you have to talk about the overtime as well.
I think, any other comments on this one? Okay, so this brings us to the end of the deck. I guess probably the one question I want to ask related to all of it is, what's not here that we need to know about? And what do we need to take into account as we have our meetings, as we talk about the overall budget? How can we keep you and the people in the departments as safe as possible and have the best possible outcomes for the Smithfield residents?
Yeah, I think, first, you know, I appreciate that question. I think maintaining the manpower structure that we currently have, based upon fact, based upon standards, national standards, based upon the roadmap that was paved along the way over the last 10 years, you know, that we stick to that. You know, I am open to suggestions for future, you know, studies, you know, consulting groups, whatever. But again, you know, they forecasted pretty well, you know, the way that we've kind of teared it up. Again, you know, without an unforeseen circumstance, this operating budget is what I need to do to keep the manpower safe, to keep the town safe. We've done everything we could to cut in areas that we could cut. I cut all the wants out, which were, you know, just, again, if we had a pool of money. Again, this was done with forethought. It was done in collaboration with the finance director, the town manager, Peter and Joe as my liaisons. Again, it's still open, right? Like you said, in the 11th hour, if there's something that comes up, let's talk, let's figure it out. And collectively, I think we can work together.
Any other parting thoughts or comments from the board?
Pleasure.
Chief,
It was a pleasure
thank you.
working with
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much.
You are a professional.
The budget cycle is exhausting for all of us, but what really I appreciate out of all of it is I learned so much about the different departments in the town, the way we function, and I see the passion that the different department leads have. So I appreciate everything that you've been doing, thank you.
And likewise, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anything you give me, I'll put on my blog.
I'm gonna read it.
And it's copyrighted.
No, it isn't. I don't have it. I'm not paying for a copyright lawyer. Oh, that, okay, I'm not paying for a copyright lawyer. This is my opinion, only my opinion.
All right, any last thoughts on item D for the fire department budget? Okay, moving on to item E, review and discuss the FY '27 town manager budget proposal. So we stayed that at the last meeting last week. This is just talking about the general departments. Do we have a general department that we want to go through? Now, what I will say to this is, looking at the schedule, so we had schools last week, fire this week, we have police next week, and then we have a meeting, the 28th. Originally, we were going to have public works, but there's a conflict that night. So the meeting on the 28th will be a free-form meeting for us to kind of go through each department, kind of like we did a couple meetings ago. So we will have another time to be able to do that.
So we can knock off.
So this is a new one?
We can, yes. No, this is an existing meeting.
Without any department.
With no department heads in it. So it's going to be kind of an open agenda for us to, yes. The meeting on the 5th will then be the meeting that Public Works presents in. So there was a shift with that. So we don't have to dig into any departments tonight if we want to kind of take and let this settle in. So, yeah, and that's my recommendation, is that we,
I think the municipal planner needs to discuss it.
yeah.
Yeah, we definitely need to do that. Just a quick thing, so, I just forgot what I was gonna say. I don't wanna keep you, but I'll come up with a new spreadsheet. Caitlin was, because I'm gonna be looking at the fund balance a little bit more, and I have some better numbers to be able to look at that. I mean, it is unfortunate, and I'm not being critical. I wanna be at the next meeting of the town council, because I have research that the state doesn't even know about for the data center, okay? And I haven't put it on my blog yet, but it's,
Has it been approved by the planning board?
No.
No.
Let's think of national news.
And there's a workshop tomorrow if you want to go, so it doesn't conflict with your budget meeting.
okay, because I can bring it there too.
Yeah, that might
Nobody,
be-
I've not seen this anywhere, and the state is being very derelict on it, so I wanna go, I wanna be.
Not to add an additional meeting to your calendar, but it might be efficient that way.
We're gonna push against that, right?
Well, let's keep this part budget related, and,
But you're a public, I let
We
you.
haven't, we haven't.
no, we have not hit public comment
All
yet.
right, so the meeting on the 28th is what,
28th is a free form.
5:30 here?
I'd have to double check the schedule on it. I think the 28th is at the town hall.
It is at the town.
There was a conflict here, so.
But I think it's 6 o'clock, you didn't change
So
the
town
meeting.
hall, and can you kind of identify those budgets you want to try to knock off that night?
Yes, I will.
Okay, I'll get you my calendar.
Perfect.
Falls under my purview.
Will do.
I have it here at 6 o'clock, that's not true.
As far as the location, Dawn
No,
was saying.
6 PM.
Oh, I'd have to double
Because
check.
it's in my calendar at 6, so we still need to.
The 28th you're talking about?
Yes.
Because, so we have one next weekend, the next week, the 21st, correct? And that's when we're meeting with it.
Next week is the
That's at
21st, 5:30, town hall with police.
Yes.
Okay.
I know, kind of ironic,
No,
right?
next week we are here
Yeah.
because there's a council meeting at
Okay,
So
yeah.
the 21st is here.
The 21st is here at 5:30.
Next Tuesday here, 5:30, and
The 28th is at the town
28th
hall
is the town hall.
at 5:30.
Okay. I will send out a meeting to board members reconfirming and validating the different locations and times. All right, moving forward to public comment in that case. Is there anyone who has anything they'd like to?
Chairperson, I have, so Caitlin could remember whether she uploaded the new organization charter of the entire municipal government.
Oh, that's excellent, thank you,
So I
sir.
made a copy so you know that all the departments and where they all fit together and, you know, which is under which, so
How can you forget?
it's just helpful to
I forgot if I
understand
put
what's
the new
going
one
on.
on there, and then I forgot to check.
Thank you, sir.
I sent it out to you guys.
There's a lot of sticky notes in my office.
If you have this on sticky notes, then, you know.
All right, that's very helpful. And actually, probably, if we could with our, for next year as a,
Anybody else?
like, have something like this be one of the lead entry pages.
What's the deputy Tom?
I don't want to.
Not
Yeah,
all
it's an
roles
extra
in this are
one.
necessarily filled.
Yeah?
And Heather, thank you very much. for that.
Yeah, so I just think it's helpful to see how to pull all these.
Taxpayers at the top.
Yeah, that's, you know, I was gonna put your name there.
You know what I think
It's
the
about
town
time
needs?
somebody recognized
A
that.
CFO, an actuary who looks, an actuary projecting 3, 4, 5 years.
Okay. She's the best. Yes, sir, please state your name and.
And the mail,
Just gave you a compliment.
as I come to these meetings, you think things are cut and dry and simple. But there's a lot of terminology and rhetoric that's infernal. Well, the slide I saw, those 3 stations that were built as a bid look pristine to me, they're in very good shape. And I think they're gonna last a while, even though they want to do, I know the chief was talking about, response time. But I think those stations are in good shape. The hook and ladder, you don't have anything to go high. So, like Mr. Conti said, it was $1 million worth 2 now achieved, so that should last us 20 years. It's in a good safe place, covered, for quite a while. The hoses, like Mr. Hose on TV with all the new types of hoses, they should last for quite a while when we get hoses. And like the chief said, the jaws of life aren't like they used to be because of the batteries that are so small, which can maybe not only do a hook and ladder, but maybe in the future they get smaller, maybe one more set on a regular engine, I don't know. I know there's a lot to it, but like Mr. Conti said, like I've been saying for years, when they had factory workers in Woonsocket, 1890, someone cut their arm off, what are we doing here? Those kids are dead, right? We needed unions. They led unions, everything's going to school. And it just seems to me, I love the chief, I love everybody here, but it seems to me like the unions and the representatives, like when things got bad, when Congo pulled on all the, my brother still being about it, he had his 2% COLA, it was just shut down. Seems to me like somehow, what I always say, I'm not saying nothing because I'm just a regular person. Somehow there's going to be some kind of, Mr. Conti said, they've gotten so far, the unions, and there's a need. How did the volunteers do it? Back in the day when I was born, that year right there, 1950, how did they just volunteer? I understand the budget, I understand it's a need, I understand where they're going to response time, there's so much stuff there. I'm just here, my head's there. But somehow there's a need to, that's it. We gotta just, and I understand the chief, I'm just saying, it's just, somehow there has to be a, I don't know if I'm making sense somehow, Ken said, it has to be some kind of balance.
Yeah, it's a balance.
The hook and ladder is gonna last us protected.
Maybe they should be 10-year contracts.
I mean, and the hooks are gonna come up, the stock, they're gonna better.
I mean,
And the only way this thing is gonna poop the bed is if Iran throws a dirty bomb, then we're all gonna have.
Thank you,
It's all over.
thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I mean, I hope I didn't throw something.
Yeah.
Don't throw it. I'm sorry, Chief.
All right, do we have any other comments?
I'm sorry, Chief, I didn't want to.
Councilman?
Yeah, what strikes me is the university what effect that has on the fire protection we provide. Like, I'm assuming that the North Station is going to improve our response times there, because we have, what do we have, 3,000 students living there or something like that? That's a huge responsibility. So, we talk about a ladder truck. I guess these dorms, if you had, God forbid, if you had a fire there, that's a big responsibility. So, I think, we have to pay attention to what these response times are for Bryant and make sure that we have adequate coverage for that campus.
Councilman, it
Does
takes us.
URI, Bob, does URI have their own
Yes.
fire protection or they use this?
Yes.
The Kingston Fire District covers URI.
Okay.
They run a heavy rescue, a ladder truck, an engine. Then URI has their own EMS, the ALS EMS.
Right. Okay.
Councilman, to your point, we also have to protect the building. We have a lot of density. You have 2 buildings there, my understanding is so that's what I'm hearing. But those buildings are very dense, probably denser than ours.
Yeah, 900 sailors.
Yeah, there's 5,000, 5,000 people. There's a lot of people. That's
Councilman, it takes 8 to 10 minutes for our closest engine to get to Bryant University.
That seems like a long time.
It is, it really is. I'm being straight up and honest, it's a long time.
8
I was
to 10
on
minutes?
Chief,
8 to 10 minutes, correct.
do people not pull over for ambulance and police anymore? I feel like I've noticed that.
Angelica, you're so right, Councilwoman.
I've
It's-
noticed this
it's-
on my travels. I drive a lot for court all over the state, like in the middle of the day, and there's police and fire all the time. And I'm pulled over, and then people are like going around me.
Everybody's in a hurry.
Nobody,
Everybody, yeah,
like 10 minutes is how long it takes me to get to Bryant from the fire station that's right next to my house.
right.
So it's not your fault, but
Yeah.
it's crazy that it takes you the same amount of time that it would take a regular driver.
And we get some
Going a little
variables.
above the speed limit, you know?
Right, we get some variables, we have the road construction on Route 7, that's kind of hampering things. We've got the daily traffic out of that campus, like Mr. Souza said, with Fidelity. It's a busy area, that's where, with those impediments, that's where we're trying to, kind of close the gap. So time's not on our side when we go to emergencies.
When we did the travel study from the fire station in the 7116 area, the response time to Bryan is 2 to 3 minutes. So where the station's going,
Right.
it'll take them 2 to
Where
3
the new
minutes.
station's going?
Yeah, it's gonna go down to 2 or 3 minutes.
Right.
And the
But what if
airport
it's something,
It's
I
going
wonder
to
if
take
it's
off
something
2 minutes
council
or?
can do to
it's
help
gonna go
fire
down
and
to 2
police
to
on
3
response
minutes.
time.
From 8
You
minutes.
guys already do.
All right.
From 8 minutes down.
But like, I don't know, how would you enforce that, right? You hike up the fine, like, you guys are busy getting to your call. You're not gonna now have a police officer that's following you, pull someone over the site for not pulling over. They're just gonna,
All right,
By the time they get there, they're gonna be.
Councilman,
do we have a lot of accidents, do you know, of like people who, police and fire responding, people not pulling over? Is there like a lot of accidents as a result of that, or not really? You guys maneuver around.
all right. Councilman, you had the floor. Did you have other comments? You were asking about Bryant and,
That was it.
okay.
You should collect them, like squeeze them a little more for some tax revenue. So,
Just a quick thing, Chief, excellent presentation, by the way, that was great. Would you be able to send that to us?
Absolutely.
And just, you mentioned that you cut some once. What, can you give us some examples of what was cut?
Sure, yeah.
Maybe I missed it.
Yeah.
Is it in the presentation?
No, it's not,
Oh,
no,
okay,
I went over those cuts, but I'm more than happy to
Or if
actually.
you want to email them, if it's late, either
What
or.
would you like? I'm
Whatever
here all
you-
night, whatever you want.
I want to go home.
All right, I'll
I'm sure
email
you
them.
do too.
Okay.
Did you, there was just 3 or 4 capital expenses related
Sure.
to roofing, PPE, hoses.
Oh, yeah.
I can show you on the budget. Do you want me to show you on the budget or they were?
And
Whatever you prefer.
while we're doing this, do we have any other public comment?
So you want to just mark?
All right, that sounds like the end of the meeting tonight then. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So a little second.
We're out. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, great job.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Remind us about.
Oh, that was a cut, you're saying?
Yeah, so that was a cut. There's also.
Dude, I want to talk to you a little bit.
Yeah, I think think it's just the